Hard hat's all about showing up to play hard, doing what it takes to win.
If you want to cement legacy, win another.
He's your third center.
You don't want to pump him up too much, but it's hard not to.
This is maybe the most I've ever agreed with you.
What's going on, everybody?
I mean, we'll keep it rolling. I mean, why not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been a while.
Yeah. I'll be honest. I was hoping that we'd be drinking. I was hoping we'd be drinking Knicks tears tonight, but we'll have to wait.
You know what,
We'll have to
Jimmy?
wait.
I agreed, and then I'm like, man, I want more games. I don't want to wait a week till games, so I'll take another one.
That's fine. That's fine. Yeah, you know.
And the finals might be
Knicks
ugly.
fans just. I'm never gonna cheer for them.
Yeah. You had two short series over on the NHL side. The Oilers just wrapped things up here. 6-3 win over the Stars. They're heading back to the Cup. I'm Team Marchand for that,
Yeah.
for anyone who cares there.
I know. How can you not be?
I am too.
A lot of
You have
people
to be.
have a lot of hard feelings towards Florida. They made Bergie sad, and that still upsets me. That you know, knocking the Bees out 2 years ago, but
I mean, that was a
they're the
Bruins
real
fault.
deal. Yeah,
I was at that game.
Jimmy, massive big delay.
But no,
from
I mean,
you right now.
you gotta. Jesus Christ! Let me get out of here.
Your audio and your
back in
connection
action,
will
baby.
match. I'm gonna do you and the fans a favor by getting you out of here, and I'm gonna get Noah in here, and we're gonna upgrade here. Noah might not be ready to go either.
Her Wi-Fi looks just as bad.
Okay, here we go. We're gonna get her out of there too. We're good. We're fine. We've done this before. We're fine.
We've been doing this a long time.
We've been doing this for so long, and I guarantee we're gonna snap it together in a little bit. We don't have anything urgent to talk about, but it's been a while since we have talked to you, and I think we needed that break. I think Bobby's hair needed that break. I think Noah, might have needed that break. I think we all did. And Noah, let us know when you're good. We'll bring you back in. Good. So Noah's back in here. Noah's been doing lots of stuff. She's going to catch you up on a few things that she's done since the Celtics season has ended. And honestly, I do think that this break was fitting because I do think people needed to kind of pull it together a little bit. I think at the end of the season, and maybe for a while after, maybe a full week after, in the 5 stages of grief sort of thing, people were really stuck on denial for a long time about what's ahead for this offseason. And I think as time has gone on and we've all had a chance to step back and see what's going on and chat with some people who understand the cap and how things are working and all of these things, just a clearer picture in terms of what's going on with the Celtics and what we can expect this offseason to be, which is, I guess, kind of expect the unexpected. Because really everything is on the table from completely detonating everything to doing very little and then just allowing the season to play out. And I guess one of the key things to like remember for everybody out there wondering what's going on with the Celtics is they don't have to get under the apron until the end of the year. So this could be a process that kind of drags out through the whole season. They'll still be paying tax if they're, if they are carrying extra payroll, but as long as they get under by the end of the year, they're going to be okay. So who knows in how many stages this kind of retool plays itself out. So I'll just ask everybody here, with the kind of week away, how's everybody's outlook changed a little bit in terms of what we were feeling and thinking about, what needs to be done or what's going to be done versus kind of where your head is at now? And again, you guys have done multiple podcasts with lots of different people, many of whom really fully, get the cap and understand the reality here. Where's your head at? We'll start with you, Noah.
Oh boy.
Oops, on mute.
Jeez, this is
Mute.
a hot
There she
start.
goes.
This is a hot start for everybody. Am I back?
Bobby,
or am
we'll
I
start
back?
with you.
Yeah, my thinking hasn't changed too much. I want to see them go into next year and try to be competitive. Jimmy's muted.
No, I'm not.
Oh, you're just moving.
Because
him
you
up, not
ignored me.
talking. Yeah, I want to see them go into this year and try to compete, and that's probably easier said than done. They're gonna have to shed off
Bobby,
multiple parts.
Didn't we just say we got past that? We're past that, right?
I'm not. And
No?
again,
Okay.
The only thing that I think prevents them from doing that is if they want to dodge the tax.
Is reality.
There's some merit to it. It's going to be ugly if that's the route they want to go here. I wouldn't have much hope for next year if that's the route that they need to go by the time the season starts. But I just don't think there's a lot of urgency with a lot of these moves. Now, I think there's some urgency to get a Jrue job done, Jrue trade.
That sounds weird.
I think there's some urgency to get a Sam Hauser trade done here. So, those two moves probably get you under the second apron going into the year. And then from there, I'm taking Porzingis into the season and seeing where that thing goes. I'm not trading Brown unless something highly unexpected comes up there. So that's pretty much where I was at before, and that's where I'm at now.
Oh, so Bobby hasn't moved. Okay, Noah, how about you?
And Luke's coming back.
Luke's coming back, really?
You are just
Bobby's bringing the band back.
Like, and you were just go. I love it. Okay, I like it. I'll jump in later. Noah, go ahead.
John,
We'll
you're not
ruin
gonna
your
like
night
it.
later.
What? Oh, you're even more
I'm
bullish
scared
now? Oh, you're scared? Or you're scared of
I'm
me?
scared. I'm scared of you.
Yeah.
So it's just seeing how things went for Bobby upon his first deal. So honestly, I don't think they're gonna tank. Which is that what you're headed, John? Is that where you want this to
No,
go?
not at all. That's not at all where I'm headed. I'm just.
So,
It's not where I'm headed. I'm
So what was
literally.
wrong with what Bobby just
started.
said?
I am literally only looking at math and nothing else.
Right,
But go ahead.
The thing is
Yeah.
to get under the second apron. So I'll admit I was a novice at the second apron 2 weeks ago. I'm now like third grade, so I'm getting there. But
Yeah.
honestly, a couple of things that I realized. One, it's actually not going to take like that much to get under the second apron. Like we're talking about 22.7 million. It's really not that much. You get rid of one or two of these contracts and get smaller pieces back, and you don't need to match the money, which I didn't realize. I genuinely did not understand how that worked.
Yes and no, depending on who you trade with.
Right, with a lot of
You're
teams,
going to
you
need
don't
Brooke on, which is scary.
You don't necessarily need Brooke. Everyone needs Brooke.
Not need Brooklyn, but anybody in the not over the cap or not above the first apron, they still have to send salary out. It doesn't have to match exactly, but but there's still salary. There's only so much you can save on each player, unless somebody can absorb the whole contract, which is not a lot. But yeah, go ahead. There's so much to it. There's a lot of.
So I think the main thing there's like a couple of different layers to this. The biggest one is that we don't know anything about what this new ownership group is like. We really have no idea. We know that Bill Chisholm is a Celtics fan. Like that tells me nothing, right? I don't know if he's going to be an owner that is now looking at this as a perfect opportunity to start spending way less money because next year is already a throwaway year. So like, why not, trim payroll as much as possible? Don't pay any luxury taxes and go there. Like it's possible. We'll never know if the Tatum injuries like cover, I guess, for that. So that's the one piece is we don't know what ownership is like, this new group. But I think that they have enough talented players on this team that they're going to try to keep this team to be as competitive as possible, because when Tatum comes back, like, I don't think they're going to want the year before to have been like all these new players, all these young guys, like kind of a total reset. I just don't see that happening. So I'm kind of still where I was soon after the season ended.
Interesting.
I understand the salary cap a lot better than I did.
Jimmy?
Okay, so I'll preface this by saying I do not understand the salary cap the way Noah or Bobby probably do. John, I'm not sure what you know. You act like you know it, so maybe you do know it. I'm going to act like I don't know it, but I will say this. About the current state of the Celtics team. Obviously, the Tatum situation complicates things dramatically because you do have what appears to be some level of I don't know if you want to call it a bridge year, a gap year, a down year, a retool year. Next year, you guys can hope and pray as much as you want to think that the Celtics team is going to be like quote unquote competitive. I just don't see how that's possible. Your best players out at least for the regular season, most likely the playoffs if they even get to the playoffs, which they should be able to maybe sneak their way in. But the money situation, and this is why it's so complicated. The money situation is obviously number one here. With the new ownership, they're towing the line of making financially smart decisions and also not wanting to make enemies out of the fan base who don't really understand the cap or don't want to understand the cap and just want to watch a competitive, fun, interesting team. They don't want to see a new ownership group come in and strip it of all of that and make it something that it hasn't been in, 25 years, which is borderline unwatchable. I don't see I don't see that happening. So I agree with you guys on that point. But I think I'm a little bit lower on my faith that this team is going to resemble as much as you guys do of this season. I think there are going to be some drastic differences here. And if, we're going to get into some trade scenarios later, but there are a couple that I think would be like Hail Mary options, to be completely honest, that would save you from, the worst case scenario, which is just be losing guys and selling off guys and attaching assets to guys in order to get under this threshold here.
Yeah. And that's the scary part to me is they don't have much control here. They need teams to help them out. They need teams to want to do business with them. The two reports that we're going to get into here kind of feel like wishful thinking to me to some degree. And I love both of those scenarios, but does Dallas actually want Jrue Holiday? Does LA actually want Jrue Holiday? If they don't, and no other team does, that's where you start getting into more difficult decisions here.
I guess I'm a little surprised that's where we are here, because I thought the general reality of what was likely to happen, not what's possible, is, again, you need teams to basically be stupid and to do something unforeseen, because raise your hand if you're a team out there that wants to add payroll. Like, zero teams. Like, everyone's looking to get cheaper and shed. No one's looking to take on $35 million, $30 million veterans at all, anywhere in the league, nowhere, not without sending out some money. So no matter, this is where I'm really confused. The reality is that when you trade Holiday and his $33 million or whatever that is, you're going to take back. There are some teams that are under the cap that could not have to worry about that, and they could, but they don't. I don't think they want to do that either. Go ahead, Noah.
Only Brooklyn is actually under the cap.
Only Brooklyn is. If you are under the over the cap but under the first apron, you have some flexibility there too. But there's still some level of matching. So at most of the teams that you're going to trade for on something like Holiday, when you trade him, you're going to get worse players, and you're going to save about $7 million. So hitting that 22 is really hard. It's not a single move trade. It's a multi-move thing that you have to do, which includes the Hauser is an almost certainty because a team can fold him into an into a mid-level thing, and you don't have to take money back.
He's valuable. People are going to want him.
He has some value. So that's an almost automatic, it seems like, because that's 10 just gone off the books. You're giving him for nothing. You're just getting rid of $10 million. But trading Porzingis or Holiday is going to net you about $7 million each. And you're still, you trade all three of those guys. That's getting you under just that first apron. The problem with trading Porzingis is you can't get under the first apron next year, because that's where you could just let him walk. So there's a danger to trading Porzingis to only save yourself $7 million unless you're getting expirings back. So that's what I don't get is it's simple. Every team out there, if they're going to trade for something more expensive, they're going to give you worse shit. So the players coming back are going to be worse, and you're not going to save that much money. That's where I'm a little lost is you have to clear this out. You have to clear out multiple players unless Brooklyn absorbs something, and Brooklyn's not absorbing anything unless it's Brown or White. And, and then you're going to just basically be giving their salary away there too. And that's not going to make you better. It's just going to get you out of the tax. So that's what I'm saying is I don't see the scenario where it's okay. Like, it's not going to be one player. It has to be multiple players unless you trade. Am I seeing it wrong?
It depends on the tax.
It's just simple math. Like,
it depends
if
on
you're
the
trying
tax.
to get under that first tax, to save $22 million, you have to trade multiple players because you're going to be taking money back.
Right. But multiple players could be Jrue Holiday and Sam Hauser too. Like
It
there's
could, but that's
multiple-
not going to get you there. You have to make another move also. And again, you could do that later
It could
in the
get
year.
you there in a couple steps.
You might have to trade Pritchard too, and nobody wants to do that because that's an incredibly valuable contract. So
right. I mean, they're not going to control a lot of these opportunities, and that's the challenging part. Is what's going to be out there for them? What bigger deals emerge? I think a lot of these are going to be money moving in many different directions. So that's hard to foresee.
This out yet, huh? Like the only clear way out is trade.
I mean, I have a million different trades.
I know, right, but the only clear way out is to trade something you don't want to trade. That's where I figured eventually people will get there and understand, like, Jaylen's
Well, what
gotta
people
go.
need to understand
Like,
is these trades are going to suck. These are not
they're
going to be
all
good
going
trades
to
for you.
suck.
Yeah,
Yes.
they're going to hurt. They're going to not return good stuff. So I think that's where you have to get your expectations adjusted a little bit here. I think all you can do
that's
is
where I'm a little confused on the still, like, in Brad We Trust thing out there, because I did think people kind of had finally gotten over that and like, okay,
I think
Brad can only do so much here, like his hands are really tied because everyone is trying to save money, so everyone wants to get rid of their shit. If they're going to slightly upgrade with yours, that's great, but they're going to be getting rid of their salary. They're going to be getting salaries too. You're not going to find deals where people just take on. It's just mathematically impossible. There's no teams that can do it. So no matter what, you're not saving a lot, but you're going to be losing a lot on the court. That's where I thought we'd all kind of landed. Like, okay, now we get it. It's going to be bad, at least for a year.
Yeah.
Do we not think so? Jimmy, do we think there's a path to being competitive next year?
Well, here's the question. I want to see how you feel about this, Jimmy. Is there value next year in just being competitive? And that means what? Second round, conference finals, maybe, if you really peak into some surprising performances across the board. Is there still value in staying above water to that degree? Because I think we can all sit here and agree they are not winning a championship next year in any scenario. So if it's championship or bust, do you take a step back? I think you have to explore it. I think you have to think about what that would look like. There's probably a couple of different ways that you could go in that direction there. But like Noah said earlier in the show, I think there's a potential to have such a demoralizing season if you do take that step back, that what's left over the following year isn't necessarily going to be a quick turnaround. Like that could be a multi-year process.
It's just whether there's another option. It's more medicine than it is anything. Like if there is another option, I think everyone wants to explore it. Like everyone would rather keep everything, not blow it up, be relatively competitive.
You have to pay to do that. That's all.
Really return.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, so I guess what comes down to the great unknown of the owners, they could come in here like white knights and say, we don't care. We'll deal with the penalties. We're not going to tank this team. And that changes the entire scenario. But raise your hand if you think that that's happening.
I have no idea. That's the question.
That is
I don't
a
know
big
these
question.
people.
Yeah.
I don't know these
nobody
people.
does.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's why it's like if this new ownership group is coming in to try to make as much money and save as much on a luxury tax, and they view this as like the perfect storm, and the Tatum injury gives them an opportunity to do that with relatively much less backlash than they otherwise would have gotten, then sure, this team is they might get rid of everybody we know and totally lean into the tank and try to get some draft picks and young players and be really bad next year and see what they can build assets for the future. Like it's possible. I don't have any reporting that suggests that that's what this new ownership group wants to do. So I'm just thinking if I was a billionaire who bought a team and thought to myself, like, am I going to try to make my team immediately terrible? Like, I think there's a certain level of, you also want to start this thing on the right foot. And I don't know that a tank year in Boston is that. I think honestly,
we have survived a lot of them.
Yeah.
We've survived a lot of tank years. Like the fans come back. Yeah. But I'm saying like in multiple sports, when they come down with the idea that you're coming back up, people hang around. What you don't want to see is a team just put its hands in its pockets forever, never go above. That's another scenario. If the ownership group is like, we're never going into the tax again, we've got a problem. That's the type of stuff that turns fans off. A John Henry with the Red Sox scenario, like we're just not going to spend until we're certain we can win it. That drives people nuts. So if you have an ownership group that's roughly like the last one ran it, which is, we'll go all in when we have to, and we're here to spend and all of that stuff. Absolutely. That's much better. But the thing that scares me, Noah, is Wick laid the groundwork after the sale was done. He's doing a series of interviews and he's saying things like
they're going under the second apron.
No one's ever going to be in the second apron. I think like very smart money without knowing these guys is they're going to get under the second apron this year. With almost certainty. They're not coming in here to spend $280 million in tax in year one. I think that that's unrealistic. So even getting under the second apron goes back to my original scenario of trimming $23 million off this payroll is challenging without borderline gutting the roster. And you have to factor in gutting the roster plus being without Tatum because you view him as a loss for next season, plus whatever other players you lose. You're losing chunks of your team for next year. I think that that's the mathematical reality of what we're facing.
I think there's
Jimmy.
two other factors.
So,
go ahead.
Yeah, I'll say something, I guess, before this show ends. But what I want to say is a couple of things. Bobby asked me a few minutes ago, is there value in competing? Yeah. Yes, there is. However, there's a lot more value to it if the team that's competing is sticking around after that year. So without knowing what that roster is going to look like 2 years from now, does it really matter if you're going to quote unquote compete just to keep the locker room up? I mean, obviously you want to build a winning culture and you don't want to end up with years and years of losing. But if you're doing it with players that you see that you're going to stick around in that future, then yes, there's certainly value to that. If you're doing it just because, hey, let's maybe make the playoffs and maybe get passed around, sell some playoff tickets and whatever, then I don't necessarily think it's worth it. I think on the other hand, you would strip some of those players off the roster a little bit. It's supposed to be a pretty good draft next year. Maybe in those trades, if you do trade player or two of value and you acquire picks back, that is a way to, again, rebuild in a sense. We've seen Wick's ownership group make huge franchise altering decisions. I mean, the one that had sent Pierce and Garnett out of town to Brooklyn, they could have gone a number of different ways going into that next season. They could have ran it back with those guys, knowing that they were going to need a couple extra pieces and knowing that they were towards the tail end, but they got that opportunity, almost like a Hail Mary opportunity from Brooklyn, and they took advantage of it, and the fan base was shook. It happened on draft night. A-Shot Blakely, I think, was actually first to report on it, and we all know what happened after that. So Wick isn't scared of making major moves like that. So while Tatum is off limits because he's the face of the franchise, basically, and because, there you go, I don't know what that is, but there it is. There we go. While Tatum is off limits, also because of the injury, of course, I would say everybody else is on limits. And just knowing that if they can find a way to get under that apron and take back assets and take back, whether it's young players or picks, to offset the thought of them just doing it for tax purposes, I would not put that past them. And that might mean parting with actually really good players that people want. What, John?
Stuff like this I find odd. It's like we weren't alive like 10 years ago. Like the current Celtics are built on a tank. Like they are built on a team
a Brooklyn tank.
They blew up a team that had no more path to winning, granted because of age, to go into the tank to acquire assets that got you Smart and Brown and Tatum. They exist because they waved the white flag at the right time. Like,
yeah, that's not the whole story, though.
It is the whole story. It's what
they got Smart and Rozier out of the tank. They got Brown and Tatum out of Brooklyn.
Again, they got Brown and Tatum. It's
years later, Bobby.
It's the smart move. You traded your big three to Brooklyn. You cashed in those picks later. You decided we're going down. This ship is sinking.
It didn't mean it meant it was part of the rebuild that you have to go.
Yep.
We're gonna get rid of this.
But those guys were in their late 30s, Jimmy.
Since
2008,
how many years do you consider ourselves a tank?
It's not what I'm saying is they recognized in this it's not the situations are not the same. And again, even the great lament for Red Auerbach was not breaking up the big three earlier. And then they took a dip after that because they held on to things too long. And that's, a well-told story from back then with the original big three, but it's not the same. those guys were old. I'm not comparing the situations, but here you have a confluence of events with the CBA and Jayson Tatum being injured and all of these things where you have to recognize we're shut down for a couple of years. There's no path. We can tread water or we can go down and come back up again. And that's, people are saying it's negative and tanking, and that's just not in our DNA. I think it's just smart business. Like, recognize it's not happening here, but let me build for 2 years from now, 3 years from now, when the window can open. Because again, the beauty of the CBA, and we've talked about this here, is right now people are picking your bones. You're the expensive team, and people are going to come for your stuff and get it cheap, and it's going to hurt you, and they're going to get stuff they don't deserve, and you're just going to have to see it walk out the door, and it's going to suck. And you can't keep a championship core together, which is bullshit and really annoying that this is how the league is constructed now. Just as your players are hitting their prime, you have to tear it apart because that's how the league is built. But what comes around goes around. In 2 years, there's going to be another Celtics or another couple of teams out there
that's
like,
might even get hit.
Oklahoma City's going to get there too in 2 or 3 years. We're done. We're cooked. We got to get rid of guys who wants them, and you'll be in a position to get them there. Like, you're setting yourself up for success. I don't know what hanging on and treading water necessarily does here, because it's going to be really hard to build forward without assets and 2 max players.
Yeah, what are you going to offer?
How do you do it? It's like we're hoping for like fantasy Brad Magic Land. I don't know where. You have to get really, really lucky at that point. So are you going to resort to luck or other teams' stupidity, or do something proactive and say,
I think what's most important.
Look forward. Yeah,
I think what's most important this summer for them is not getting frivolous with their draft picks in terms of trying to offload money. Like, that might end up being what they need to do down the line, but I try to hold back on that for now. I like this Clippers idea that's floating around here, because I don't think you're giving
we'll
up
get
draft
into some of
there.
these. Yeah.
So I think that is like priority number one, because you need picks now, John. I was the trade every pick guy a couple of years ago. Now the landscape's different. You need those picks now. And they don't have a ton of them. So I would not be loose with that. I think you go in order of guys who are luxuries to guys who are necessities into the future. And like I've talked about, Jrue was an excellent piece for this team, an absolute cherry on top to a championship roster. This isn't a championship roster anymore. So I do think there'll be teams out there that do potentially want him as that. That's not this team anymore. Hauser, same thing. You could probably find another Hauser-like player in that position.
Let me ask you guys a question, because again, I think the NBA has made it perfectly clear, just based on how the CBA is set up, you can't have 2 supermax players on a team and field a team. It might as well be at the top of the CBA. No team shall have 2 supermax players. Why is it that we think that the Celtics can and should retain both? This is where I'm stuck again. I don't get, like, this is clearly what it's built for. You can have them, but then you can have nothing else. And that'll work only if you had a crap ton of draft picks and were able to draft and develop a bunch of players who are on rookie deals or rookie extensions, and that fills out your roster. But you don't have that. So how do you survive in this current NBA climate with 2 supermax players? How do you build the roster?
Noah.
I mean, there's a couple things. I think, first of all, any decision that they make this offseason is going to depend on who is actually valued league-wide. And I also think we have very limited knowledge of that right now. Like, if there's a huge suitor for any one of the guys you don't want to trade, whether that's Derek White or Peyton Pritchard or Jaylen Brown, then I think that's what's going to push this team to make that trade, more so than like the Celtics are going into the offseason with like, these are the 3 guys we want to get rid of. I don't think it's going to be like that. I think it's all going to depend on demand from other
opportunity.
Teams. Yeah. On the 2 supermax points, I'm just going to, like, again, I'm disclaiming this with that I'm still wrapping my head around the second apron and all of these rules as I'm reading through the 700-page CBA and talking to people and everything. But you can have 2 supermax players, and you can actually be in the second apron, and it's not a total disaster if you're competing. Like, if this team had made the finals this year, I would be saying there's no reason for them to get out of the second apron next year, except for if they want to be cheap, because the basketball penalties are actually not as punitive as I thought going into it.
The draft pick one kind is for them.
It's not if you think you're going to be competitive.
It's not.
Like,
if you know you're going to field a good team year after year, you
Yeah.
can live with those
So-
penalties.
so
It becomes down to
second
money.
apron thing.
Yeah.
And again, I'm fully disclaiming when I usually have basketball takes, I'm very confident in them. I'm saying I'm still putting the pieces together on this. My interpretation right now of the second apron is that it's actually not as punitive from a basketball standpoint as is being discussed. If you actually go through each provision, and there's a number of them, including the 7 years later, you can't trade that pick. Your first round pick gets moved to the end of the first round, which it's been the end of the first round every year in recent years. So that one doesn't necessarily matter. It makes it harder for you to make trades because you can't combine players and make a trade. If you want to do a full debrief, I had Keith Smith on my podcast who really explains it. But basically, if you're going to be competitive, it's okay to remain in this position.
Are they going to be
It just
competitive?
doesn't make sense. It's just really hard to make moves in this position. So right now, this is like the hardest point. They can't really make a lot of moves right now because they are above the second apron. But they can, as long as they're out of the second apron by the end of the moves, it's okay. So like they can combine players right now in a trade as long as the end result is that they're below the second apron. So my point is that you don't blow up the team because of the basketball penalties. You blow up the team because the ownership group is not willing to pay luxury taxes.
It's
like,
not. It's not. It's definitely the money. Yes.
Yes.
I've always said that about the second apron in general.
Right.
But when
So I just want to put that out there though, because I feel like I went into this offseason thinking the second apron, you're debilitated as a team. It's just the fees. And the question is, are you going to pay a lot of money for a team that can't compete next year? But also, are you going to tear down an entire team because you don't want to pay that money because you think that Jayson Tatum's going to come back the year after and be the savior? And my biggest reservation with this idea that you're just punting a year and he's going to come back and he's going to come back and bring you back to contention within a year or two is that we just don't know what he's going to look like. And I'm saying that like I do think that he's going to be fine, but I wouldn't look at Jayson Tatum coming back as like all your problems are going to be solved. He's always had great players around him, and that was pre-injury. So that's why I think you're going to try to field the competitive team as possible. I think they're going to be on the market for stars. Like I do think that Brad Stevens is going to see if he can make a splash here, and like that's obviously like seems kind of unlikely right now considering where you're at and how hamstrung you are compared to other teams. But I don't think they're going to look at it as like we can just be bad for a year and then Tatum's going to come back and we're going to be good again, because that's just like this is such a tenuous situation. And like the Achilles thing, there are so many different outcomes to how players return, and you don't know which guy he's going to be.
Yeah. And again, exactly that. There's no, like, you could live with the penalties if your team is set year in, year out, and you're
that's
just
how you feel a year ago. I don't know if you feel that way now.
No, I'm saying, who cares? You freeze picks and this and that, like,
right, like
whatever.
I thought you're the picks guy, John.
If you, what I'm saying is, if you're contending for titles now, Bobby, I mean, come on. They're
not contending for titles now.
That's why you blow it up. But if you are, it's not about the restrictions. It's about the money. When you're not, an owner's like, I'm going to pay all this for this. Like, it doesn't make sense. So you understand why they're going to do it. And also, again, just reading the tea leaves with what Wick said, Wick's going out there and talking about the penalties. And he doesn't mean the penalties. He means the money. And I'm sorry, he's setting the stage for what's likely to happen with the new ownership group, which is like, nobody's going to deal with those penalties. Like, okay, we get it. Like, no one wants to pay that much money for a team now. It's insanely punitive, and they have to get out from under it, and they have to be out from under it for 2 years. So it's
scary.
It's challenging.
If it is the money, that's scary because that's gonna hurt bad, and that's
it is. But it's this much money. Like, again, there's a difference between paying 30, 40, 50 million in tax, which a lot of teams are going to do to be competitive, versus 280 million, which you more than double your payroll. No one's doing that. Like, I don't care who it is. Like, nobody's blowing that much money on a team without guaranteed return on investment. Like, this is a championship team, but you're not that next year. There's almost no incentive to do that next year.
You're
in
not
a scenario
that next year, but you also know that. I mean, let's be honest.
And 2 years from now, look at the age of these guys. Yeah, go ahead.
There it is. I was going to say, let's be honest. I mean, they're probably not quote unquote trending in the direction that ownership or anybody wants them to be trending in. And that has to do with age. That has to do with maybe the style of play. That has to do with some of the pieces around, Tatum and Brown. You've got guys going in different directions right now. And so when you take a look at the makeup of this team, all those reasons, why would you pay that extra amount of money? The window, we basically kind of said the window was like last year and this year. We never really jumped ahead to like, oh, can they go back to back to back? Nobody was thinking that. Everybody was thinking that this team could go back to back if they stayed healthy and if a few things fell their way. It didn't.
And if you go back to back, maybe consider trying 3.
Exactly.
No,
if go back to back. Yeah.
Dream scenario. Everybody reasonable said year 1 of the Tatum extension kicking in, this team's going to have to do some serious shit. Everyone saw the $500 million bill coming 2 years ago.
Right, but that's what I'm saying.
But fans say stuff like, if they win, maybe they'll run it back. That doesn't work that. Like,
I still think there would have been an outside chance, though, if they could have gone. If they win back-to-back this year, they had the opportunity. And, I mean, John, if they go back-to-back this year, they are one of the greatest teams of the last 20 years based on how difficult it is to do that. It's not that easy to just blow it up. And if you're ownership, to blame it on a frozen draft pick or a draft pick that gets delayed or whatever the hell it is. It wouldn't be that easy to do that. It would have to be about money. And I don't think the new ownership group would very easily be able to stand up there and blow up the team or to sell off pieces that just won a championship. You'd get a ton of pushback. Now it's not the case. Now they have a number of reasons why they can sell off. They can claim that it has to do with the sanctions that put on them, but no, it has to do with the fact that Tatum's out for the year. Holiday's another year older, and he looks like he's got some nagging injury stuff. Porzingis, we haven't even said his name, but nobody knows what the F is up with Porzingis. I don't even know how
he's
you could
chilling
trade him
right now.
Don't know how you could trade him, and if you do trade him. I mean, from an X's and O standpoint, by the way, you have no center, so that's another story. But there's just
all 3 are gone.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that put them in a completely different scenario than if it went a little bit differently to end this season. So I'm with you, John. I do think that there's, aside from a pie in the sky trade that comes out of left field, I don't think that they have a lot of options right now. I do think that if they did let's say if they did repeat this year, we're having a completely different conversation. And it does come down to money, but it comes down to whether or not you're willing to pay for it. If you look at this roster, knowing the way it ended, looking at some of the way the players finished off the year, you can make a much stronger case to not bring back this team than you can to bring back this team.
Right. No, it's fair.
If you go back to back and then the ownership trades off 3 core pieces, like the ownership is going to get
exactly my
popular
point.
People in the States. So it is. They have a
that's what Wick's there for.
Here to save money. Yeah.
And that's
Wick's
fine.
Wick's there as a human shield right now.
I don't think anyone should look at a year where you don't have Tatum and say they should pay $200 in tax. Like you can level that down to some degree. And honestly, the most realistic scenario I looked at here, where you're trading Holiday, taking back a little bit of money, you're trading Hauser outright, and you're trading Porzingis, taking back a little money. If you want to keep White, if you want to keep Brown, you probably have to pay a little bit of tax. I'm thinking like 10 to 15 million. And can you do, I know you're still going to be in repeater land after that, and that's tough. I know you're still going to have to pay indefinitely into the future to have 2 Supermax players, as you said, John. But I think you can't tear it down completely. Like you still you can't have Tatum come back and have no one left. You can't have no hope of competing when Tatum comes back. Because guess what that's going to lead to? Tatum walking in the door in a year and having another rough season and going,
I
think I'm good with Boston.
But it's just allow them to do things though. I mean, next offseason is a completely different situation, Bobby. I mean, you don't just automatically go into the next season after this one with the same roster. I mean, aren't they going to open themselves up to be able to?
Well, a lot of it's going to come down to drafting. A lot of it's going to come down to
But trade-wise, though, I mean, if John said earlier, there's going to be a team that's going to be in the Celtics position. That's going to have to sell off guy. I mean, like there are ways for them to come back soon. Maybe the landscape of the NBA. I want to ask you guys 2 questions. The first one was going to be, do you like the way the CBA is designed? Do you like the current state of the NBA and that it does force teams to sell off players and it does force players to jump around and all this stuff? Because I don't really like it, to be completely honest with you.
No, it doesn't make sense because they put in a provision in Supermaxes to keep players with their teams.
Right.
So you're paying an enormous amount of money for that.
They just don't want you to have 2 of them.
And then you get penalized on the other side of it. And you're right, John. Like,
and your
provisions
teams that did nothing right. That's the worst part. for the sake of parity, you're rewarding a bunch of teams that have done everything wrong, drafted poorly, couldn't get people to sign there, and you're just handing somebody else's good hard work to them completely unearned, undeserved. That's what bothers me the most is like this, like, sure, the Celtics did take advantage of other teams trying to shed salary. But that's always going to happen with teams that are on the way down, right? The Celtics are a team that should be on the way up or at least level with their core, and forced to break it apart. That's a travesty. So that's a crappy element of this CBA is the Celtics should be a team that should just be, look, here's who we are. We built this. We got it. Come get the belt. And instead, you got a 2 to 3 year run and you're done in the prime of your players. And other teams are going to benefit for sucking, for tanking, for making all the wrong moves, all the wrong trades, and drafting poorly. And they're just going to get guys for free now, which is crazy. Noah?
No, I was just going to say, I think, like, in an ideal world, in my opinion, maybe I'm just old-fashioned when I think about this, players should be staying in the same place for as long as possible. We should have way more players than we currently have that finish their career where they were drafted. Like, watching Celtic City, I was like, damn, like, that just never happens anymore. Like,
I agree.
Everybody just gets turned for picks, and I get it. And sometimes it's really smart, like when Pierce and KG did it. But this CBA clearly disincentivizes that. Like there's no incentive to drafting multiple stars and being able to retain them. And I think that'll be adjusted ultimately. Like
it makes it much more into a business.
Like we're in the early years here, and CBAs, get changed for a reason. And if you go back, like every time they do this, like they look at what went wrong and what didn't make sense. And to me, this is one of those things that just doesn't make sense. You want to incentivize teams to be able to keep that. The only thing I'll say is the money is in the media and the attention, and fans like trades more than anything. I've noticed that when I look at my page views for my stories, and when we see where's all the engagement, it's around the Luka stuff. And like fans love trades. They love, movement around the league. So maybe my idyllic view of like how I want the league to be doesn't actually bode the most money for everybody
this also
involved.
Makes it more complicated to do trades. Like there's a really exciting Giannis scenario that we might talk about in a little bit here. But honestly, when I looked into it, it just hit the brakes and said, oh, they can't do this. And there's a million reasons why. And that
Giannis scenario wasn't really a Giannis scenario. It was him saying he prefers to stay on the East. And then the story saying,
let's say you even want to dream,
the Knicks and the Celtics play in the East, but neither one of them, they can't make that.
Well, let's say you even want to dream. You can't, and no one understands that because
can't do
it's so complicated.
Come on, Bobby, have some fun, all right? Jeez.
Hey, no one's going to dream more.
We're
going to
have more fun. We'll get into some of the scenarios now. This was kind of a health check to see where we're at. Now
we're not healthy.
We're not healthy, but we've got each other. And that's all that matters here. So let's go through very quickly. Let you guys know about our pals over at. Can you guys still hear me?
Yep.
Yes, we can.
Yeah, our pals over at Prize Picks. Check it out. You know the deal by now. America's #1 daily fantasy sports app, #1 platform in all of North America. Download the app right now. Play 5, get 50 instantly when you put the code. Hey, we're back.
Hey,
CLNS. Bobby can't just leave like that.
Damn it, Bobby.
Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. That's all you got to do. Also, check out, you want to subscribe to the CLNS Media Network. That's who we are for those of you first timers. And there's not a lot of you, a lot of OGs here. Check it out. Subscribe to the CLNS Media Network here on our YouTube page. Turn on your notifications. You will be notified every time we go live or a new video drops. Check it out. CLNS Media. Bringing Bobby Manning back onto the stage here. Let's go through some of the stuff here. Okay, so the most active and the most likely. Noah, how do you like your position here? You want to go back? Put you back over there.
Your right side.
Hey, and I'm over here.
And you are muted. Hey, Jimmy.
I was to the right of Bobby.
The hottest topic.
You're moving up.
The hottest name has been Jrue Holiday here, and I think the most likely, person to get traded. There is value. There are teams.
Jrue job.
Interested. Yeah, it's a true job. Jrue Holiday drawing trade interest from multiple teams. We have the Mavericks being talked about here. The Mavericks have to play the majority of next season without Kyrie Irving, looking for an experienced point guard. They had a guy, I can't remember what his name was. So now they need a point guard there. And Clippers.
Right. Oh,
Clippers.
geez, we lost Luka. We need Holiday.
The Clippers, who always love old people. Nope. Noah.
No, he's muted.
It sounded like it was such a good comment too. You were so excited to say it, so do it again.
Yeah.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah.
What happened was during your ad, I kicked my mic off the table by accident. I was just gonna say that the Clippers, it actually is like the most logical suitor for this contract because they're already headed in this direction of paying old players, and you may as well just fully lean into it. No other team's really in that position, so that was a report that made sense to me.
I like that trade a lot. So you're getting back Bogdanovich, Chris Dunn probably, and then like
Chris
a smaller salary.
What's special about Chris Dunn and the Celtics?
Hey, you could sell fans on Chris Dunn
They drafted
very
him.
easily.
No,
He probably
They wanted.
that's the guy
fans
everybody wanted
him
instead
to draft
of
him. Jaylen Brown.
Jaylen Brown. Yep.
He's the reason they booed Jaylen
They have a
Brown.
different
Yes,
player.
they wanted Chris Dunn because there was rumors about a team that wanted whichever superstar they were trying to
They were
trade for at that
Chicago
moment.
and Jimmy
Jimmy
Butler.
Butler.
Yeah, Butler, and that the Dunn was the guy. And once the pick was no longer Dunn, the dream of the trade died because no one wanted any of the players. It wasn't just Jaylen at that
That's
point.
the thing. It wasn't a Jaylen Brown issue.
Nobody liked
I just can't believe
anybody.
people boo at the draft.
No one knew who
Oh,
Jaylen
God.
Brown
Why would you
was.
want to
Really.
welcome your new draft pick with boos? It's so crazy.
It's tough to do it, but again, watch the NFL draft one year and just see how fans react because there's fans from every team that go to that draft there and they get worked up all year to see who their team takes, and when they don't take the guy they want, it's savage. It's a rite of passage. It's
Porzingis.
They always boo.
Who the Tingus? Who's this? The
Pingus.
man. There was one thing, I believe this is Jake Fisher on the Mark Stein Substack said here that this is the scary part, okay? And this is where we have to click ourselves back into reality instead of fantasy land of like what trading these guys do. This is the biggest fear of all. Multiple rival executives have passed along that for all of Holiday's unquestioned championship know-how. After contributing to title team, blah, 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 blah. They must have to attach some form of incentive, such as draft compensation, to Holiday's contract to convince someone to absorb the $104 million remaining on the 31-year-old's deal over the next 3 seasons. That's nightmare fuel, right? Like, not only are you trading players for less than they're worth, but you're going to give up picks to do it, and that is a killer right now. And we've seen, again, worst case scenarios too. Celtics having to attach picks to deals to get off of, talk about saving a nickel, to get off of Enes Kanter, you give away the Bane pick, and to be able to get off of Kemba, you give away what turns into be Alperen Şengün.
Got Al though.
Yeah, I know, but come on, like it would be better.
Come on.
It would be better to have also not lost the pick. That's all I'm talking about. It stinks when you have contracts that suck, and to get rid of them,
that's one of our classic disagreements, Noah.
Wait, you don't agree with that, Bobby?
No, I like the trade.
Bobby just thinks Al was good enough.
Sucks. Oh, you don't agree with that specific trade. I thought you mean that you don't mind giving away.
I didn't care about first-round picks back then, and who knows if you even would have taken Şengün.
And I've been trying to tell you for so long they're valuable because of the money. Like, you have to have young players to balance out the expensive, talented ones. You have to have them. This is the crux of our whole play Neesmith and play Romeo. Like, play the kids and see if they can play. You need them. Right now, what do they need? They need a Neesmith. Actually, and again, I'll ask you this. What's a common thread about it, about a lot of the teams that have been succeeding in the last few years? And again, the new CBA hasn't even kicked in. You've got a lot of players on their rookie extensions, not their supermaxes yet. As soon as you hit that first supermax, everything gets really, really complicated, and it's going to get the Pacers aren't going to be able to stay together. They're going to get expensive too. OKC is going to get expensive in a couple of years. Also, they can't stay together much longer. So again, you got to maximize that window. It's almost become like the NFL, where you try to build a super team in the rookie. You draft your awesome quarterback and you build your super team around them before they take up a quarter of your cap. And that's a reality now too. So again, we're looking at Holiday here and the idea of attaching picks to it, which is scary. But of the things thrown out there between the Clippers and the Mavericks trade seems to bring back the most value in terms of players. It doesn't save you a lot of money. again, you're talking about taking back, I think the proposed deal was somewhere in the neighborhood of $29 million to get rid of 33 or 34. It's not great savings.
Yeah,
there.
I mean, if you don't have a third team, any trade's gonna.
But you can trade those down.
Yeah.
If you take two smaller pieces, you can trade them later too.
Yeah.
And
in
that
the Dallas
and that
scenario,
might be the game that they play. And that's the smart. I think the smartest thing Brad can do is that.
Yeah.
Trade for parts and then keep trading them down and out. And then that's how you save your money there, rather than sending everybody out all at once just to save $6 million and $7 million here and there. Take a piece and then trade that piece into somebody else's mid-level or whatever. And that's probably the smart way to do it.
In the Dallas scenario, I actually see the potential for Brooklyn, another team like that, Atlanta maybe. I think Chris Forsberg mentioned him in that. Bringing back PJ Washington and sending him somewhere else in that trade, because other teams would want PJ Washington or want to be able to flip PJ Washington in Brooklyn's case. So I actually think Brooklyn as a partner is realistic in that scenario, and then you're only taking back 14, so you save like 20 right off the bat in that kind of trade, just bringing back Gafford. Clippers, I think you're taking back all of that. Bogdanovich, Dunn, Eubanks, and those guys are all on 1-year deals, which is nice. So if you really need to just lose those guys after a year, the contracts just expire. But more likely than not, John, you have to find new homes for these guys after you trade them. There's some crazy scenarios where you're bringing back Marcus Smart, and then maybe you have to find some new home for him in turn for one of these players like a Porzingis, or you might bring back Rob Williams, John. If Portland wants one of your guys.
Wow.
Then, are you keeping him? Are you moving on?
I'm listening.
So there could be some wacky stuff that happens
He's
here.
awake.
Huh?
No, we talked about it. Anyone
Yeah.
who's coming back isn't necessarily playing for the Celtics
I've
next year.
already accepted the fact that I'm gonna immediately want to write a feature about whatever player arrives, and I'm gonna have to accept that they're probably gonna be here for like 2 days, and I need to not get emotionally invested in their journey. So
Yeah. So those are the trades. Yeah, it's like Washington and Gafford. Does Dallas want to do that? I'm pretty skeptical on the Dallas thing.
how do we evaluate where Dallas is at as an organization right now? Because they're on such distinctly different timelines that I don't know whether Jrue makes sense. Because is Anthony
He
Davis
is
gonna
on
be
the
there next year?
Davis Nico Harrison 3-year deal, so I guess that works.
Yeah.
But is he a point guard, John? At this point, I don't know.
I mean,
Is Kyrie expected to come back next year?
I mean,
January, February.
He's on that, 9 to.
So that's why they have a need. They don't have a point guard right now. So that's why they have a need for a guard. Is it? They mentioned a couple in the Stein piece, John. Lonzo Ball. They might look at Chris Paul, who might be a minimum player at this point. So there's some cheaper options.
Yeah, that's the whole point. I mean, someone had mentioned him for the Celtics. Like, that's what makes no sense to me. Is like, are you?
You love Lonzo though.
I did. I liked a lot about Lonzo, particularly how good he was defensively. But
I love Lonzo.
But he's toast.
It's sad
man.
what happened to him. Yeah,
he can't move. I mean,
he wasn't toast though. He came back this year, and I think he actually made himself somewhat valuable.
He was okay.
Yeah.
He's not making a lot of money.
But why are you spending 33 on Holiday? When you can spend veteran minimum on Chris Paul, like as a band-aid, that's what I don't get. Is like,
but if you're trying to win the championship next year, I think,
you might go for both.
They think they're going to win the championship next year. Like that's what they're.
I want them to think that.
Right.
Yeah,
I don't know. Again, I don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
I'm confused. But
and let's
if that's
be
their
real.
mentality, then Jrue would be a perfect person to add.
Yeah, but do they want to pick to bring back that much money? I don't know. Like, those are the kind of questions they're going to decide whether deals like this get done or not. Because I just don't think you want to attach a pick to Jrue Holiday. He's still too good. He's still too valuable to too many teams. And it's a good thing. I don't know where these reports are coming from, but it's a good thing that you have multiple teams potentially interested in him right now, because that could allow you to angle yourself away from giving up a pick here. And again, just to prepare the fans, you're not going to get back good stuff for Jrue Holiday here. You're just praying that you don't have to give up a pick in one of these deals. And I don't think they'll have to ultimately with a trade like the Clippers one here. Do the Clippers want to pay tax? That's a question I have, because they didn't last year. Dallas has to sign Cooper Flagg for $13 million, which puts them in some real second apron trouble. That's a highly unexpected expense that I don't think anyone in Dallas probably thought was actually going to happen. But here you go. You have Cooper Flagg. So you could give up a PJ Washington and a Daniel Gafford, maybe another guy too, to try to offset some of that cost. So the Dallas thing sounds feasible to me. The Clippers thing, if they really want him, is probably a more likely deal, but I don't know if the Clippers want him. I had Lon Murray, who covers them on the other day, and he seemed to think they would not. So I don't know, John. You're the Jrue guy. Is this the guy?
Let me ask you this, Bobby. Was it a misread by Brad to re-sign Holiday? And
I think so. And I said it at the time, and I know me and John disagree about this one, but he had a $39 million player option. I know he probably could have gone out the door and really threatened them to leave last summer.
It's not that big.
And you wanted to run this back.
If whatever team you
but who was
with,
paying him, John?
I think a few teams would have paid Holiday,
$100-something million.
I think that was the market.
If he got the deal, I guess that's the market.
I think that's the market for that player. It's just the Celtics weren't really in a position to do it because of their situation here, and so
they kind of had their hands.
He really wanted to run the team back.
Maybe it's a misread from Brad. Right, one, he didn't want to be one and done and risk that because that would be having spent some assets and losing out on somebody here, and so they didn't want to gamble on it. That would be one. Two, I think it was kind of good faith. As soon as Holiday walked in the door, he's like, "We're gonna do this," and they did it, and they were happy with the returns.
It did feel like it was in the bag right now. Like that was just gonna get done.
That's what I think. And three, but there might be a slight miscalculation on how difficult moving it would be when that time came. And so you could look at Brad and say,
it's been a year, and they're already saying we got to attach picks to get rid of the guy. Like,
yeah.
That tells me that he's making more.
I think it's a fair criticism. Yeah.
One thing on the Holiday deal. One, we don't know if it's a miscalculation. We'll know in a few months, though. Like it's very possible that Brad finds somebody that wants his contract. Therefore, in that case, that was not a miscalculation. So it's way too early to know. Two, anytime we see reporting, like anytime there's reporting from any front office people, we have to think, why is this report out there? Who gave this information to the reporter, and is there a motivation for that? So I'm not discrediting the Jake Fisher report. I think he's a good reporter that has lots of great sources, but it's very intuitive why other front office execs would want that out there, right? Let's tank Jrue Holiday's value. Let's give it to Jake Fisher. There are only a few insiders in the NBA right now. So if you get one of these reports out, there's really not a lot of guys that are doing this. And now there's an overwhelming.
I think that affects. I understand that.
Anytime somebody tells me something, there's a reason why they're telling me something. Right?
I'm aware of that. I know why No. I agree with that. There's always some sort of, where did this come from and what was the reason it was given to them? I consider that with every single report. All I'm saying is in terms of public perception, in terms of fans and this and that, do you think GMs are duped by that? You think Brad's like, oh shit, I got to give a pick now? Like, I highly doubt that's what happens there.
I don't think it's like 1-to-1, but it starts to be like, okay, other GMs are hearing that other GMs think that there should be a pick. I don't want to be the only guy that doesn't think that there should be a pick. Mm-hmm. Like, I think how does Shams get to break all this news? It's all, he gives
it's a quid pro quo.
Team and so I think there's a little bit of a mind.
But if we know that, I think they know that. That's what I'm saying is, like, I know that stuff gets out there. I'm always wondering, like, are the smart people in the personnel offices, and not every single one of them is smart, are they falling for that? Or are they like,
well, my point is just, I don't know. So, but that's why I don't want to say, like, because Fisher reported this, that is what's going
to happen.
That's
why I asked the question. I didn't say it was a miscalculation.
No, I know. I'm just saying, like, I actually still think I think I'm with what somebody was saying. I actually don't think that Holiday's contract is going to require that. If I had to guess,
that's the best case scenario. Yeah,
but
because that would suck. That would.
I'm very curious.
Second rounders, maybe
the next few weeks.
Like, I think people would be fine with that. It's long-term money, right? You're giving up a pick because they have to have Holiday at $37 million in 2 years from now. Like, if it was just Holiday this year, they're giving you picks. It's just the length of this deal is pretty massive here for a guy who's approaching 37. So you already saw a little bit of decline last year. You already saw him miss a lot of games last year for injury reasons. There's still a lot of great value in this player, especially as one that you could buy into, saying this guy immediately raises our ceiling. He's just a guy who makes everyone around him better, and he can just do a million things for us. And listen, the last two teams that picked him up won a championship the first year. So I don't think necessarily there'll be a lack of interest in him. But I do think it's feasible that just because of the cap situation, everyone's in here they do have you in a leverage position where you're like, all right, maybe we'll give up a couple seconds here. Because guess what a lot of teams are going to say to them, John? Yeah, we like Jrue, but could we get Derek? And what if every team's saying that to them? Then you're in a tough spot.
Yeah, but I mean, that's how negotiations work. It's you offer one thing, someone asks for something more, and then you talk around that too. And look, the plan offering Holiday around, could also be a ploy to let me see how much I can extract for White, because I'm fine making that trade if I can get some big value back in return. So you're engaging with teams once the first in any negotiation.
Very fair point. I'm wondering why, to Noah's point, these reports are out there here.
In any negotiation, first team to show their hand loses. So you offer Holiday, they say, how about White? Then you get to say, what are you going to give me for him? And then it's open season at that point. You're starting at 0 and they've got to make the offer. You're in a weird position if you're Brad. You're going out there and saying, would you take this from me? Like, they know you're weak. It's a weak hand. But as soon as somebody says, well, I would consider that, all of a sudden you're like, all right, well, let me hear it. And
that's why if ownership would just give them the ability to go into the year in the tax territory or even in the second apron territory, if they can't find good trades right now, that'd be such a plus for Brad, because he cannot be in a negotiating position. We saw it at the press conference now where they're like, oh, we're going to figure out what we're doing. They cannot go into the summer saying, we really need to shed $25 million here. Who's going to help us out?
But everybody knows it. Everybody knows it. It's like having,
unless it's not true.
I mean, it's like having 2 starting quarterbacks making $50 million on your team. You start calling around and be like, I'm fine keeping both. No, you're not. You got to trade one. Like, everybody knows the Celtics, if they're calling, they're not calling just to like, oh, I'm just doing my due diligence. They're trying to get rid of money.
The one thing that's true that Brad
people know they have the Celtics over a barrel. That's going to hurt them a lot in negotiations. The one thing that helps is it only takes 2 teams to want the same guy. So if two teams are serious, if 2 teams are serious about Holiday because they truly believe he's going to make them better, then you're fine. You're in business. You're still not going to get great stuff, but you got to be mindful of the other guy scooping you. So as long as there's any market at all, you're hopefully not going to get fleeced. You're hopefully not going to have to attach a pick. Hopefully. We'll see. Another thing that happened this week is Jaylen Brown went on his Don't Trade Me tour of Boston. Here.
That's not it.
Here he is.
Don't trade me tour.
Don't trade me tour. Here he is. But Noah caught up with Jaylen. He had
look at that.
Hours and hours with fans at an event for his brand, for his shoe brand, and then he also popped into a couple of schools with a crew, just surprising students here. But he also talked with Noah about a lot of different things. One of them being that he wants to spend more time in Boston. I'm in the community a lot, he told Noah for CelticsBlog.com. I'm in the community a lot, but I'm leaning towards being even more in the community, he said. I'm really just trying to touch this community and be around, be available for the city of Boston. So there it is. So you got to catch up with Jaylen, Noah, and I guess another thing worth talking about, and I'll put it up here, surgery plans. I got a lot of doctors I got to get evaluated with. This is the other interesting thing. We're now a few weeks out and we still don't know what's going on here. See the potential for surgery versus no surgery. Wait to speak to the Celtics. For now, it's just rest and recovery.
Rest and recovery. Who would have thought that would have been important?
It's weird. Taking a step back from a long season mentally, it was a lot of stuff going on. So Noah, you caught up with them up close and personal. Just give us your thoughts on kind of, what it was like talking to Jaylen here in an intimate setting, away from the court, just kind of getting to be,
Yeah, a couple things. So first of all, I've seen this article aggregated by a lot of different sources that I think some stuff was taken a little bit out of context. The part about the Boston community and him wanting to be in this, I know a lot of people are interpreting that as this trade rumor,
Don't trade me
fusion thing. The way that came up was we were talking about how cool the event was and how in the past, because they played through June.
No, I just do that because I'm a cynical asshole. It wasn't based on
Jimmy and John.
It's not you, John. It's about 30 different articles, and it was a big talking point on 98.5. And this was I've been following this news cycle, so I'm just gonna contextualize this here now. We were talking about the event and just like the community, everybody being out, and he explained that because they usually play through June, and in recent years, this is the earliest that since he's been on the roster, this is the earliest exit since he's been healthy since 2019 because he was injured that other one. So like this is a very unusual circumstance for him, right? I don't think he expected to be out. He said that multiple times. I expected to still be playing. What they were saying that what he was saying though is that because of the fact that he is now here, he has this unique opportunity to spend time in Boston that he doesn't normally have. Like that was how this came up. It came up very naturally in conversation, and I thought that it was an interesting talking point. Clearly, 2 days later, we saw him stop by a bunch of schools in Dorchester and in Mattapan and Hyde Park, and kind of do this really special day, which I have a story about coming out tomorrow. But I really don't think this came out in the sense of like it just in the moment. That's just not at all how it felt. So it kind of sucks with this stuff because I get how this quote got taken and turned into like I'm not getting traded. We weren't talking about trade rumors. We weren't talking about it never came up. It was not a part of the conversation. It was because of where we were in the event that was happening around us. So just putting that out there.
Just from my perspective, I'm basing it simply on the fact that he did these two things, nothing he said. Like, oh, hey, it's just me and my film crew walking into a school. Like, I do think that there's an opportunity for Jaylen to kind of present himself as the guy now in a way that like, we've talked about it. This is an opportunity for Brown. As much as it could be a crappy season overall for the Celtics and their fans and a step backwards in terms of where they've been the past couple of seasons. For Brown, it's an interesting opportunity to kind of do the thing he's always talked about. If I had this opportunity to do, you would see something you don't see or haven't seen in me. I've had to make sacrifice. I've had to do this. I've had to do that. So I think putting himself out there in this way is a bit, like I said, everybody does this. Is a bit of marketing as much as it is the community stuff. He's great with that, though. And when he is around, he does a lot of these things. So I do think it's genuine also. But I do think that there is, if Jaylen Brown is in a position where he wants to control his own destiny, you can look at it a couple ways. Him not wanting to be traded from Boston means he likes it, which is good. It could also just mean, I don't want you guys to ship me. I controlled my destiny and my decision to sign here, and I decided to be here. I don't want to go wherever it is that you feel like sending me because you've blown it up. And that's probably a real thing for Jaylen Brown right now. Like, it's whoever you are, everybody, they're happy, right? Like, they like it here. They won a championship a year ago. Derek White, you think he wants to be traded? No. For Holiday, I don't think he wants to be traded. Like, none of these guys. So I think it's natural to try to do anything in your power to, like, you guys, everybody loves me, right?
That's
like,
the positive
please
out
don't
of this.
get rid of me. Yeah.
That's the positive out of this.
Yeah.
Whether it was sincere.
I don't think they want to go. Yeah.
Whether it's sincere or marketing, it's still good that the end result there is he wants to be here, because it's not an ideal situation right now. And for him to step up and want to embrace that leadership position on the court, in the community, whatever that is, I think that's good for him. I think that's good for Boston. As you said, John, he's always been someone who does stuff like this. So I don't look at it too cynically. There's obviously an element of this with all these guys. Like, they want to be in a position of control. They don't want to have the team decide where their future is and where they're going and all of that. So I think it's warranted to look at it from that perspective as well. The only feeling I have on this is what I felt all along is I want to see this play out next year. I believe in his ability to keep them above water this year. We can debate that. We can debate how great the potential opportunities would be to move him and get something amazing back. I think that's valid to look at as well. But I just lean the certainty, Jimmy, that you have and who he is and what he's done here and how he's gotten better every year, how he's exceeded expectations in a lot of these seasons. The knee's worrisome, and we should talk a little bit about that. But I believe in him going into next year. I think he can keep them above water, Jimmy, to the discussion we had about whether they try to compete this year or try to take a step back. But he's at the center of that, right? Because he's the guy that you probably get the most return for out of all the guys we're talking about.
Totally. You would definitely get the most return, and that might be their easiest way to get out of whatever situation they find themselves in right now. I'll say this. He can lead a team. I think he could lead the Celtics team to an extent, but it's going to take a lot more talent around him for them to really be competitive, Bobby. I just don't see, and it's not really a knock on him completely. It's just the way the NBA is right now, too.
Everyone needs a team, yeah.
Right, exactly. I think, to everyone's point, and, John mentioned it, it's if he ends up sticking with the Celtics, it's a huge year for him next year, because he gets to he gets his opportunity to show that he is not a 1A, but a 1, and that he can, lead the team to the playoffs. If, obviously the goals will be a little bit different next year, depending on how things shake out. But
it'll be very easy for them to exceed expectations.
I was going to say, if the expectation is to just make the playoffs, sure, I think Jaylen Brown could lead this team to the playoffs if they keep, if Derek White sticks around and Peyton Pritchard, has a bigger role and a few other things fall their way. I think they can be a playoff team. I think you can go one or two ways for Jaylen Brown. One, he could really prove a lot of people wrong and show that he can lead a team. And two, he might prove some people right, that they don't think that he is that alpha and they don't think that he's capable of it. And that could really hurt his stock in some way. So the Celtics would have a decision to make if they feel like they can't eventually afford both Tatum and Brown. Obviously, Tatum you can't trade at this point. Brown you can, or you hold on to him and say, oh, maybe we can get more from him at the trade deadline, or maybe we get more from him if we do sit on for another year. Or maybe we do want to just pay the tax and figure out how we can fill out this roster around them and just continue on with it. But it didn't work. Don't forget, it did not work until they brought in Holiday and Porzingis and some extra guys really, really stepped up. They did need the additional help. So you can't strip it all away and then just expect for it to now all of a sudden work.
Especially when a lot of those guys deteriorating into the playoffs made them look like the old version of themselves. And Tatum going
and you brought
down
up
to
the knee
and all that.
I'm
worried
brought
about
up the knee with Brown.
What's your concern level there, Noah?
I'm concerned about the knee just because knees were so important. And honestly, the fact that it's one of these situations where he doesn't know exactly what to do, those are sometimes the toughest injuries. Like, obviously, if he had fully torn a ligament in his knee, he would have to have surgery.
Say it, John.
He would have already had it. But I mean, we've talked about this before. I think meniscus injuries are scary because they linger.
I hate hearing meniscus.
I hate it. Yeah, the second that we saw that report, it sucks. And again, we know partial tear, but partial tear can mean a lot of different things. But if I had to guess right now, I don't think he's going to have surgery. Like, that's the inclination I have. I don't think he's going to have surgery. I think that he's going to consider it and meet with a bunch of specialists and try to find a way to not get surgery for his knee, because a lot of times meniscus knee surgeries are the beginning of many other knee procedures. Like, if you go back to some of these players, and so a lot of players want to avoid that first one. So I do think that he's going to avoid it. On the trade piece, the one thing I will say is I wouldn't be surprised if he wants this surgery thing out there for his trade value, much more so than the Boston community tour, because I didn't ask him about the knee surgery. He brought it up. And so that is the one thing I will say.
Yeah.
That is the one thing I will say, that from the
I'm risky. Yeah.
From reporting, he wanted to keep everything low key during the playoff run, because why would you want opposing teams to know exactly what you're dealing with? But as soon as it ended, this reporting came out, and then he was very candid about how he's considering surgery. So that part makes sense, and it's super intuitive too. If you were a player that didn't want to get traded, I'd be like, my legs.
What happened to no structural damage?
Right. So Brad and him have a different tune right now about the knee. That was clear.
When we went from
why do you say that, Noah? Because when we talked about it last, we kind of went into the whole technically with the meniscus, as you were saying, you talked to the doctor and you said the whole thing about everyone's got some partial tearing. Anybody who's been an athlete or done something that, as much, an impact sport, as basketball is, with these guys running, jumping, cutting, there's going to be small tearing in almost everybody's knee if you looked closely enough. So structurally, it probably is technically sound. Why do you say now that what Brown said differs than what Brad said when he said, or even what Brown said during the season? Because Brown said structurally sound, then Stevens said it, then Brown changed his tune. What was different?
It's not, and maybe it's a little bit of a reaction. It's not that they said something factually different. It's just that I left Brad Stevens' press conference feeling like the knee was kind of a non-issue, and then 5 days later, I'm talking to Jaylen himself, and he's telling me I'm seeing a bunch of doctors to see if I need to get surgery. And Brad, just in general, minimized all of the issues. He made it sound like Porzingis was going to be healthy next week. This is just a general feeling of what is this supposed to be happening?
Yeah. This is called B-roll, Noah.
Okay. So, I thought I clicked on something. So so Porzingis, the same thing. Brad made it seem like it's just post-viral syndrome. He'll be fine really soon. We're excited he's playing in Latvia this summer. All that stuff, he's going to downplay. And to me, that's okay, why would he not downplay it if he is at all shopping for these guys? They are going to want to make these guys seem as healthy as possible. So that's all.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. We're gonna rip through a few super chats, and then I got a couple random questions to ask you before we wrap it all up. And again, I thought we might be heading into what we would know would be a finals matchup, but we wanted to talk about those teams a little bit. But we'll fold that into our kind of closing argument, so to speak, as we go through that. But first, let's get to a couple of super chats because there were some here. And again, you can always support the Garden Report through super chats. If Gelso ever gets around to like doing the tally, these things do go to the hosts eventually. But you can support the Garden Report post-game show through super chat donations.
Tally it.
It's pretty good, guys.
Give me the numbers.
We
had some good ones during the playoffs, and the Celtics have to go ruin it for us.
I know. Bobby can get himself a lot of scrod with the contributions we got.
That wasn't on my mind. Sounds good.
A lot of codfish, a lot of whitefish. But let's go through some of these right here. We'll start with let's see. Why are all no cap 757? Why are all the trades I'm seeing for JB not for a star that's not on a supermax like him? Because they're trying to save money. So almost everything is kind of trying to take back less. You don't want to trade. Why would you trade Brown for a lesser player that's equally expensive? It doesn't really.
That's the Towns for Randall trade. Yeah.
Yeah. The Tatum's, and I get that it's change of scenery, or I need this more than I need what I have. Those trades make sense when you try. I need a big and you need a wing. So let's make the swap and see how it works. Elements 1985. Tatum's value is tier 2 play over tier 1 minutes. He'll never play the same minutes and therefore never be the same player. Have to plan for diminished JT. I'm going to circle back to that because that's the biggest
reason I want Jaylen here.
It's the biggest elephant in the room that we're ignoring because it's not immediate, but it is certainly has to factor into some of your thinking. Fans are delusional. This is Grev about the current state of the NBA. You can't build around 2 max players. It's as simple as that. Maybe you can, but it's really hard. They're making it hard on purpose here. Question, Ahmed. There are no direct flights between India and OKC. How do the media members handle this? They do have media charters, but otherwise, if you're Noah or Jack or Bobby, you suck it up. You get on connecting, or you take.
Yeah. What do you mean? You get on the connecting flight.
Connecting, even if there is a direct flight, usually. So
yeah, exactly.
What's the drive? What's the drive? Is this that far?
Drive's not hard, but I bet Joe Sway is gonna get behind the wheel and.
Soda Pop 1850. Don't forget the salary cap will increase by at least 10% each year. So having 2 Supermax contracts isn't bad.
Supermax is increased too.
But the Supermax goes with it. It's a percentage of your cap, so it doesn't matter. Those Supermax deals are going to be $75 million per.
Didn't Jaylen Brown sign off on this CBA? Damn it! Isn't the guy
VP and Grant? Freaking Grant.
Freaking Grant ruined everything in peace.
Jamaican boy, I've been waiting for a group Garden Report question. Do you think we saw Tatum earn his last first team All-BA? Is there a path to Giannis do it? We'll talk about those things as well. And then X3, the trade that fixes our cap situation involves JB. I love him. He was my rookie. After 7 years, it's clear. 8 years. He doesn't have the basketball IQ necessary to contribute in our system. Sad to say, but time to go. He was
just the Finals MVP a year ago. It's crazy how it changed.
Generous and coming out of nowhere here, Jay, cancel Roman. Throwing down 50
Jay.
Here. Chipotle tomorrow. I think they have vegan options as well. That's for you. That's a burrito for all of us here. Sherrod does not get one.
I want that super chat sent to me tonight, John. I want my burrito tomorrow.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Chipotle is vegan, right?
We'll get on that.
Chipotle is one of the best vegan options, actually. So.
Yeah.
Really?
So, so let's throw that out there. I'll throw a couple of kind of rapid fire questions to close things out here. We'll start with the Tatum situation. I'll ask you guys outright: what kind of player is Jayson Tatum going to be when he returns from Achilles? We know everything went as well as it could go, and that's been it's understood. Really strong reporting from Noah. Bobby had also talked to some people, but
Bridge.
Just in terms of how that went down, the timeliness of it, his age, lack of injury history, the type of surgery that we think that it was. There's a million reasons to believe that if it's going to be successful, they've done everything in their power for it to be successful. However, these things don't always go well. In fact, more often than not, they go poorly. So this is the thing. And Bobby, you mentioned it, so we'll start with you. Is this the main reason you don't want to consider trading Jaylen, because he might have to be the face of your franchise if Tatum all of a sudden is late stages Carmelo Anthony when he returns?
Yeah, because well, you can.
I said I wasn't going to say it, and I said it.
John,
I have no idea who he's going to be when he gets back to full strength. If he gets there. What I do know is it's going to take some amount of time when he does get back for him to resemble himself, if that does end up happening there. So I think Jaylen's part of easing him into that position. And let's say he doesn't return to full form here. You need a player who can take the lead role.
Guys, I'm going to bed after this. I don't want anything.
There's Happy Tatum. Go ahead.
Yeah, there's Happy Tatum. Yeah. Now, listen, these guys' roles could change. They could flip at that point. And next year, listen, the expectation isn't championship. And I'm almost expecting the first quarter of the season to be difficult and not fun and rough looking at times for Jaylen here as he acclimates to a new role and, maybe has less talent around him, as Jimmy pointed to there. But if you're building and hinging all your hopes of turning things around on Tatum returning and being the same guy and having little around him at that point, or at least ascending pieces or pieces you hope are going to grow into becoming contributors around him, you're back to where you were in 2021, John, where you're just screaming at how little help there is around him and how no one can make a shot around him and all that. And I don't know, Noah. I have no idea who he's going to be on the other side of this. Unfortunately, with this injury, the safer assumption is that he probably won't be at that same level, at least initially. It's going to take some time if he does get back to this level. I hope he can, but this injury is just brutal. It's so rarely a good outcome on the other side, or an ideal outcome, I should say.
I'm optimistic because of all the reasons that we mentioned. So if I was leaning in a direction, I think he'll be pretty similar to the player that he was before. But I don't think you want to have your entire franchise's plans centered around that belief, because there is some risk. So like maybe 60% of me feels like 70% of me feels like he's going to come back pretty much the same guy. But the biggest thing that as I've continued to read about this injury is that even if you have the best surgeon and you do everything perfectly right and you do 12 hours after, like a lot of it is just goalposts that you see later on. And like, it's still right now, way too early to know how he's responding. So it's possible that his
role, who he is as a player, might change.
Yeah. And I know the mental piece is like a big thing that people discuss with this injury. That's just really challenging.
Nice. Thanks.
That's nice.
Gotta have the guac.
So it's a total toss up.
I love the guac.
That's only enough for one of us to get guac.
Thanks, LIP. Yeah. So, come on. Yeah. It's fine.
Just kidding.
It's like when your mom gives you like $5. Like don't spend it. Your grandmother, don't spend it all at once. So yeah, no. Here's my only fear. Right? Let
me go before you talk for 20 minutes.
You go.
All right. My thinking is that I'm with Noah. I'm obviously leaning more towards Tatum to come back closer to who he was than to look like
because of who he is.
Completely different player because of all the things we stated. His age.
I'm not gonna let them see you, Jimmy. How about that?
Thank you. That's fine. I just want to get words. I want to just say words.
I want to say words.
I just want to say things.
Ooh.
And so I'm with Noah there. I'm wondering, and this is the part that I'm nervous about. The things that already frustrated me about Tatum is what I'm worried might get magnified, and that's aggression. That's like attacking the rim more, being more physical. Those are the things that I fear we might see less of, especially early on. And I don't expect him to just go balls to the wall, coming back from something like this. But when I saw Tatum at his best wasn't when he was putting up 13 3-pointers a game. It's when he was being aggressive, driving to the rim, going to the line, getting in his bag a little bit. And that's what I'm a little bit concerned about. And that's what's ultimately preventing me from just saying, oh, he's going to be the same old Tatum again, because I do think that that's going to at least be a process. And we might not see it at all his first year back. It might take him a number of seasons to really get back to that comfortability of drawing contact, looking for the foul, driving to the hoop, throwing it down on somebody and not thinking about landing. Like those are things that I can't even, imagine because I haven't gone through it. So I'm not really ready to say, will he won't be the same Jayson Tatum, but those are my reasons to believe that, yes, he can still be an amazing player. I don't know if he's going to ever be first team All NBA again. 2 years from now, there could be a completely new player that's not even in the league yet. Yeah, that is crazy. I still think he could make one of those teams. I'm not saying that can't happen, of course. But it's tough being the top 5 player in the NBA. And I don't know if he'll be able to get back to there. He's missing, at least one of his prime years in order to get there. So that's kind of where I'm at with him.
And in the Durant example, he wasn't the same guy defensively anymore after that. Like the offense was great, and a lot of that's just him being one of the best shot makers of all time and leaning on that. Dominique, you have to fill me in, John. I don't know how that went.
Nick lost a lot.
Ago.
Nick lost about a foot off his vertical.
Yeah, and again, whole different world medically. Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of this, as Noah said, is unprecedented. But how are you feeling about it, John?
It's not. It's what Jimmy had said. The issue is everybody knows what the Achilles does. It's just that's
speed bridge.
That's how you're. It's hard to be explosive after that injury. It really saps your explosive strength, and you need that in basketball. And the downside to Jayson Tatum's overall game is he's not that explosive to begin with. He's twitchy. He's strong. He's got some wiggle. But he's not just blowing by guys. He's not Ant, who's just or Jaylen, peak Jaylen, who's just exploding by people. So he needs every bit of that. It's that guy, it's that pitcher who's throwing 95 and 93 and getting by. And now he's just throwing 90, he just can't get it by anybody anymore. Right. Like it's that there is a line. And if he goes just beneath it, is that part of his game going to go away? Maybe. But if he evolves and he gets smarter about how he approaches things, he may, Noah had made the point about Jaylen with his injury here. Maybe that slows him down and stops him from doing some of the things that are the worst parts of his game. Maybe Tatum isn't going to sit there and try to wiggle and shake and try to, blow by people as much and recognize I got to be smarter. I got to attack fast. I got to get in the post more. I got to really work on that, the midi game, my floater game, my jump shot and this and that. And those are some of the areas we've wanted to see improvement in anyway. So you might see an evolution of Jaylen Tatum into a different type of guy, but I am a little worried that this whole, when we're screaming, go to the hole, I don't know that he might not have that in his bag.
Even in that Knicks series, I'm like, man, why can't he create separation?
He couldn't create separation there. Sometimes he has a difficult time, even with guards who switch onto him or bigs or getting around them. So again, he doesn't have that in his game to begin with. And that's always a bit of a concern here is if you sap even 5%, 10% athleticism, is that enough to make it so, well, he's not getting by anybody anymore, and that could change his game a lot. And so that's definitely shooter. That. Switching questions again, we'll go a little more rapid fire here to get through them all. How will Joe Mazzulla treat the media next season if the team is not as successful as they've been? Joe has had.
You should let Bobby answer this.
Yeah, you should let me answer this.
We're good, and I'm doing things right, so suck it. Kind of mentality. And if all of a sudden they're treading water in and around or below 500, what's Joe going to be like, Bobby, when you ask him, did you guys maybe shoot too many threes or did you think about not going double big? How's that going to go next year?
The same way it's always gone. Great.
Not well.
Yeah, I don't see Joe switching up his approach too much next year. And there's some good and bad with this. It's bad for me when I ask these questions, but it's good for the team because I don't think his expectation for what they're going to be changes at all. I think he's going to expect guys to step up into bigger roles and thrive in them. I think he's going to probably make some adjustments in terms of play style. There's a lot of talk about that right now locally, and a lot of people saying that he's not adaptable. I think we saw last year he was pretty adaptable. And again, as much as me and him go back and forth, I'm a fan of Joe Mazzulla. I want him back. I want him extended. I think he's a great choice for leading this team through what they're about to go through here, because what were they last year without Tatum? 10-3. They're great without Brown. They're great without 2 starters. They're great without 3 starters. They win all these games. So that's part of my confidence going into next year is that they've won with a variety of lineups. They've developed younger guys into, fill in roles where they've succeeded. My confusion above all else in the playoffs with him was, why didn't they keep doing that in the playoffs? Why did it get so tight? Why was there so little adaptability and flexibility there on his coaching part? I still don't have a great feel for why that happened there. And listen, he's not perfect. He's young. He's growing. I think he's one of the best coaches in the league already. And you're hoping that with more time here, he'll become an even higher echelon coach in this league. But guys respect him. The team's bought in, which is as important as anything.
Noah, what's his demeanor going to be next year if the team is not experiencing the same levels of success?
He's still going to kill us, Noah. Come on.
I think he might soften a little bit because honestly, I think he's
going to soften.
I think he's softened a little bit throughout his career already. And part of it is like he's figuring out how to be the face and how to. Yeah, I think so. I mean, you don't think he was softer this year than he was his first year?
Not with me.
Hey, guess who doesn't like to have fun? This guy. Go ahead, Noah.
We like Judah.
Yeah.
We love Judah.
If you look at how he was talking after they lost, like, I don't know. I have a feeling he's going to maybe kind of just view things a little bit differently. And he's all about like win or die. Like that's, he might have to adjust some of his own views when they're losing half their games if that's what ends up happening. But again, I still think they're going to be good next year. So I'm answering the question, but I don't think it's going to be like they're a failing team and he's going to have to figure out.
But they're going to lose Noah more than he's ever lost before by far.
Yeah.
Yeah. It'll be different. It'll be different. All right. We know that this isn't possible, but let's just throw it out there. Forget the can they trade them phrasing of this. Would you, even if you could pull this off, is Giannis attractive to you at this point in time on this team, joining forces with presumably Tatum? Do you want, if there's a way that this can work, do you want it to work?
Yes. This guy's awesome. This guy's ever since we started doing the show.
Jimmy hates Giannis like Noah hates Tatum. It's bad.
Noah hates Giannis too.
I don't hate
that being said, John. That being said, John,
Bobby's favorite player in the history of basketball is Giannis. So I don't feel that. But
let me just remind you guys what he did.
I would consider this based on the state of the team.
With very little help around him for the third straight year, fourth effectively, he was 29-9. He averaged 30 for the fourth year in a row. He averaged 10, I'm looking at the wrong thing here. 12 rebounds a game, 6.5 assists a game, shot 60% from the field. One of the best defenders in basketball, period. The only downside here is the free throw shooting, because he also became a 62% two-point shooter this year. Mid-range fadeaway, he had that in his bag. He carried this team. There's just
whoa. Yeah.
There's a personality here that I love as well. I do like the personality here, and I love how loyal he is and all that.
You have a
nationality
Greek correspondent insider.
John, you'd have to start going to games.
John, why don't you break this story, John? You must have like a cousin involved in some capacity.
I do, yeah.
I just love everything about this player. And listen, he's a little older now. He's built on explosiveness. Maybe that deteriorates sooner than some other players who go into their 30s. There's some risk in adding a guy like this, but I mean, he's just one of the best players we've ever seen, period. And how could you, if there's any way you can add a guy like that, you jump through any hoop it takes.
Jimmy, you're on board?
I am on board. We just did 45 minutes talking about this team being stripped to nothingness. Like, if there was a chance that instead you got Giannis, yes, you just tell me, like, I'll go pick him up right now at the airport if that's the case. In a perfect world, it might be a different superstar, but those guys aren't available, John, right? I mean, unless you're the Los Angeles Lakers anyways. So I would definitely listen. Wendy has made these statements before, and you know exactly which ones I'm talking about.
When he said it today, I was like, what? Why is he saying that?
Why do you think that is?
He doesn't just throw things at the wall without at least some sort of inkling. So where there's smoke, there's a little fire. I'm not ruling anything out. Bobby, go back to the calculator again. Figure out a way for this to happen. There's got to be a way.
You can't combine salaries.
You can't, but you can if you gets you under the
If you get below the second apron first,
if you get
you
below
have
the
some
second
flexibility
apron, you
here.
can.
And honestly, you do have a compelling package, and that was Windhorse's point here, is that, you know, compared to some of these other teams,
You're going to
you
send
could offer a
stars
lot
back.
here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
And you know, does Milwaukee actually keep those guys? Do they flip them for
See-
more like the Blazers did with Jrue Holiday? Like, you know,
Yeah.
that's a question for them. But
John, how
the
is like
Celtics are in position to do this if they really want to.
how is like the Greek situation here in Boston? Can he kind of?
We're so freaking Greek here. Are you
All
kidding?
right then. So that's
They're
Yeah.
competing with New York City, though, John.
That's true. New York's got
That's
more
not
of
the same.
everything though. Yeah, New York's got a
Yeah.
lot more.
They
More
get
trash,
lost
too,
there.
Bobby.
Yeah, exactly.
A lot more
They get lost
scaffolding.
there. There's more of everything there, which means it's like you know there's plenty of Greek community here for Giannis. I'll make sure I'm a part of
There's
the
a
outreach.
parade. I know
Yeah.
it's a Greek parade. There's a lot of stuff. That goes
The
on.
Greek parade, which is supposed to be for Greek Independence Day, which is Ikospempti Martio, the 25th of March, is always like 2 months later because they can't get a license to get into the city at that time.
I'm pretty
'Cause
sure that happened again this
It's
year.
like it always happens in like May. It's 2 months after, but it doesn't matter.
Noah, how do you feel
No,
about
you
Giannis?
do it.
Noah, are you on board? If it could work, how intriguing would you find this? Both in terms of how spicy it would be to add a player of his caliber, but also fit. Assuming you would be sending out probably Brown and Holiday, who knows what, and what you'd have is a Giannis-led team waiting for Jayson Tatum to return.
Yeah, I mean, if we're talking about get rid of those players for nothing, like Jimmy just said, sure, I'd rather have Giannis than get rid of Jaylen for a bunch of players that aren't that good, right? Like if we're gonna get rid of a star, like my thing with Jaylen is that I don't think that he's gonna return you a star, like a legitimate star of his caliber or better. But if he does, then Giannis is like the number one guy that comes to mind.
Mhm.
So sure, Giannis is a great player. Like he does a lot of great things. I don't know that there's any substance behind this. I do think Windhorse is pretty reliable. He's probably as reliable as it gets. So if he said that, there is.
I think Windhorse's point was that Giannis is intrigued by this.
Giannis wants the East, and
It is kind of a
wants
weird
to
this is
thing
the
though,
only
if he
thing that
wants
would
to
make sense.
contend next year to go from having a star teammate with a torn Achilles that would punt it a year to another star teammate with a torn Achilles that would punt it a year. Like it's not a win now situation next year, right? By all accounts, we still think Tatum needs to be back for this team to be in that position.
Yeah.
So
The point is that long
how old is Giannis
term-
now? 30, 31, 32?
Yeah.
30.
Yeah.
Like I think they're always just 30. Okay. Maybe
okay.
maybe he's
Yeah, exactly.
And you know
Maybe.
what? And you know what?
I just hate the idea of trading Jaylen. I think like,
Let me also say this: if you're the new Celtics ownership, acquiring a guy like Giannis is also a pretty good business decision too. And you know
I wouldn't even be shocked, right? Like that's what I'm saying with this offseason. It could literally go in a million directions.
It could go in a
I think-
million.
Yeah,
And
like,
you'll
this is
see
one
it
of, this is a
happen.
Bible thing.
Because
Yeah.
I think there's a trade or two you have to make before this happens. So you'll
Yeah.
start to see things set in motion. You'll be like, oh, all right, what's going on here?
All right. Speaking of New York, do New York celebrities at Knicks games bother you? I keep seeing on Twitter how upset people are every time they see Chalamet or Stiller or
Chalamet.
Tracy Morgan. Why is everyone so bent out of
I'm
shape?
upset when
about
I
the
see
Knicks
Tracy
celebrities?
Morgan throwing up.
But that's pretty bad.
True.
Why is everyone so upset? I'm jealous of their celebrities. I love.
That's where my mind went. Yeah,
I
want
love
more celebrities
Chalamet.
in
I'm like, this
Boston.
is awesome. If these were Boston celebrities and they were shown at all the Celtics games, I think we'd be losing our minds. But people are so mad about this.
Well, I'm known, John, to greet the celebrities when they show up at the games. If it's someone I want to meet, take a picture. So I want more of that in Boston. If that's a possibility here. I don't really care what goes on in New York. Doesn't bother me too much. A lot of the, what am I thinking of? Like a Larry David, a John Stewart. There's a couple guys in New York that I like.
If you're a
seeing
real
and-
fan, you happen to be a celebrity, I have absolutely no problem with it. So Ben Stiller being there, he's a big Knicks fan.
These guys seem like real fans. They're going to Indiana for the games.
Right. Well, but now it's like they kind of have to at this point, right? They kind of have to
they're
lean
pot
into it a
committed.
little bit.
Chalamet's along for the ride.
Yeah, Chalamet's girlfriend, I don't think she needs to be there. Like, she's not a fan. Like, she's just there because it's a place
Who cares,
to be.
though?
I don't care otherwise. But no, I don't care. Like, I wish, like you guys, the Celtics had maybe, and no offense to like Donnie Wahlberg and like those guys, but like it would be nice to get a couple bigger Celtics fans in the building.
Throw
once
Affleck, throw Damon, throw Chris Evans, throw
They
me
never
Krasinski,
show up.
a BJ Novak, a Mindy Kaling, Conan. None of our guys go.
Conan.
They never show up.
Dukakis.
Boston
High
guys.
school.
Yeah.
We get some of
So
the
did
biggest
so did Dukakis.
celebrities born around here, and they totally abandoned us for LA and New York and all those cities. So I wouldn't mind seeing it here and there. It's always fun. Like when they're in the building, if you're at the game, they show them on the jumbotron. It's always kind of like brings a little extra added boost to it. But like
We used to have Gucci Mane. I don't know what happened to him.
yeah, Gucci should show up with Robert Kraft and
No, wasn't it Meek Mill
those guys.
that he would show up with?
I don't know if Meek Mill was here. He's a Philly guy, but
Meek
Yeah, I
Mill.
know, but Kraft had a thing with Meek Mill, like he got him out of prison or something. I forget what it was. There was something
Yeah, it was.
there.
He did. It was so
that they
weird.
had a connection. I forget what that was. It was one of the weirdest headlines.
We got McLovin.
It was like a Mad Libs
McLovin's there
headline.
a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
We got McLovin, but don't call him McLovin. He does not like
call him
that.
McLovin.
Stefan Diggs probably
He does not
right
want
now.
to be called McLovin.
Yeah. I'll ask another question here. Where it's not there yet, but Pacers Thunder right now. The Pacers have the lead with a chance to close out the series and head to the finals if they can win Game 6 at home. Again, nothing is certain, but they're up 3-2. Is this what the NBA wants? They want parity. They want to break up the Celtics.
I don't get
and
Congrats.
so this is
They
the
just
great
stopped.
Adam Silver experiment you're about to see play out here on whether or not this works. Like, if this is
what
the
happens
result
man, when nerds take over.
of parity, and this is a ratings disaster and nobody cares, which I'm not certain it will be, because I think I like to believe the quality of basketball is more what's going to sell here, or stars, or whatever you're interested in. But I don't know that OKC has juice here. I think people they recognize that they're good, but they're not loving watching them. Indiana's more fun to watch, but they're also, it's not the Celtics, it's not the Knicks, it's not the Warriors, it's not the Lakers. Not saying those teams are better, but there's juice missing here.
These aren't even household name stars yet necessarily.
If this is
and
a disaster, do you start to rethink your model here? Does the NBA want this, or is this a nightmare? Noah.
Well, I think the first thing is, if the series is great and, Tyrese Halliburton and SGA have these marquee moments, that's what's going to solidify them as the next, part of this next generation of stars. So
until the
NBA
CBA forces them to blow it apart. Yeah.
Sure, but the NBA would have loved to see LeBron and Steph.
They can't find jobs. Nobody can sign them.
Run.
Yeah.
But if those two guys, if Steph and LeBron are still carrying the 2025 postseason, we're in trouble moving forward, right? So I think it's a good thing to see the torch actually be passed to these new players and for them to get these real moments. The ratings are always going to be lower when it's smaller market teams. Like the Knicks have had crazy ratings for every series they've been a part of so far because it's New York. And so, yeah, it would have been better for the league if the Knicks had advanced to the finals, but we'll see.
Yeah, and it's one step off. The Thunder were always making the finals to me. That's no surprise here. And it's a small market, and there's some younger stars here who aren't as recognizable right now. But this was inevitable, and they're starting something here with a run that I think is going to make them, to Noah's point, they're more recognizable. The Pacers thing feels a little. Yeah, I hate degrading what the Pacers are doing right now because I've done it every step of the way. I'll give Noah credit. She's been on this bandwagon, and it's a great one to roll with right now because they're fun, they're exciting, and they might have more of a chance to compete here than I'm picturing right now. I doubted them against the Cavs. I doubted them against the Knicks to some degree. I had it going 7, but I took the Knicks, and now I'm going to take the Thunder. They're just a lot better on paper. And maybe that won't matter. I hope the series is more compelling to Noah's point, basketball wise, than I see it right now.
Again, does the NBA want it, Jimmy? Do they want this?
No.
There might be good basketball
necessarily.
I'm asking if it's a tree fell in the woods scenario.
The worst nightmare is
it could be great basketball, but Jimmy, do they want it?
The biggest tree in the world could fall and no one's there. It's not going to make a sound, and that's exactly. This could be a great finals. And Noah does make a good point that this could catapult like an SGA to that superstar level household name. I'm kind of with Bobby in the sense where it's like the Pacers. Bobby, I've been a Pacers guy through and through for years.
For a long time.
But even I can see this is a bit of a flash in the pan situation for this Pacers team. I just don't see a lot. I mean, maybe I'm being a little bit too harsh. I don't want to say flash in the pan. I think we are all a little bit surprised to see them in this situation, and they do got a couple of younger guys in that squad that could theoretically, continue to rise up. But these are no household names at all. I mean, SGA isn't even a household name. Halliburton isn't a household name. These are big names for us because we love basketball, and anybody who loves basketball will actually probably really enjoy this series.
An intriguing series.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and Pacers Knicks has been a blast to watch. Tonight was a bit of a dud, but that series was a ton of fun. But if you're the NBA and everything's about numbers and ratings and dollar signs and advertising, this is a nightmare scenario. So maybe it will give them a little bit of pause when they do look at how they are getting the parity across the league.
But I don't think it's because of that, Jimmy. It's because the Celtics fell apart. Like, this should be Celtics Thunder right now, and whether due to injuries or they choke games 1 and 2 or
it's
whatever
part of
you
it,
want to
Bobby. But I mean, it's part of it. But the Warriors had to disassemble at some point. The Lakers, they've had like a lot of these other teams weren't in the situation that would allow them to have a higher rating. And the Knicks are a godsend to what's going on. Because I mean, you had Minnesota, OKC. I can't imagine that did anything good at all either. Yeah. So the Knicks really did salvage at least the conference finals.
Speaking of stars, Bobby mentioned not necessarily household names. This insane, constant obsession with this face of the league, which is the dumbest conversation all year long. It doesn't. Either there is one or there isn't. If you don't know it, you don't see it, it doesn't exist. It doesn't matter who decides to dub someone face of the league. They either are or there aren't. But Anthony Edwards does a couple good things and everyone's like, oh, maybe it's him. And then they lose and everyone craps on him. Anthony Edwards has now reached 2 straight conference finals by the age of 23. I've been told by some of my contemporaries that reaching the conference finals is a massive accomplishment. But Anthony Edwards is being blasted as not ready for prime time and a loser, and he's only 23, and all of these hater memes right now. Is this success, 2 straight conference finals, or no?
For this franchise, yes. You never know how many opportunities you're gonna have to win championships necessarily, so every time you fall short, it's a failure to some degree. But he's on the younger side of this curve, so I still see more upside for him here. The problem is they weren't close in either, and his performance was a significant reason why, and that's why you get backlash as he has here. And he got a lot of praise we saw it coming, Noah, right? Like, there was significant praise on the front end of his rise. And then when the expectations build, you're going to see the criticism follow through here. So I think there's going to be some skepticism about his ability to carry a team moving forward. His playmaking isn't where it needs to be. I think his mindset in a lot of these games when he isn't able to score. We talked about it after that Wolves Celtics game where he had that infamous quote about how he, wasn't allowed to shoot because he kept getting doubled. Like, it's just shocking stuff to hear. And he had a very similar comment after one of these games in the West Final. So, the scrutiny's deserved. You're expected to win. You're expected to at least perform and be competitive.
I understand
they haven't done it either.
You understand it relative to how people who are Celtics fans treated the Celtics, as in they're still young and they're great and it's great success and the arrow's only pointing up. And that's the conversation we're having around the Celtics. Feels like everyone's saying, like, because we've talked about,
but they lost to Dallas last year.
No one gets hated on like the Celtics do. And Edwards, with a team not as good as the Celtics team, and also at a very young age, has failed twice, and people are killing him for it. So that hatred came kind of quick. Last year, Bobby, we were talking about him being Teflon, a Teflon superstar that everybody wanted to latch on to, and that didn't last.
You knew that wasn't going to last.
Yeah. I've just realized now with the media, it's just you elevate people, you prop them up,
and you want to knock them down,
celebrate them, and you just do it so that there's a moment. Then when it's the second they struggle, you knock them down. It's just a cyclical thing. Every player has gone through it. I think Anthony Edwards was stamped as like the next big thing before he should have been. He's an exciting player, and I think his play style probably elevated him above what his actual production and accomplishments were. And now that's kind of being reeled back. And is reaching 2 straight conference final by 23 good? Like, sure. When you draft a player, like, you would definitely take that trajectory. But the conversations that he was a part of earlier this year, last year, I felt like were just premature to where he was as a player. Like, he's not the player that he's going to be in probably a few years. And you saw that with SGA in the series. SGA is a much better player than him.
But did Celtics fans do that with Tatum?
Yeah, honestly, I've muted like all the national discourse around Anthony. I didn't realize he was getting killed that much. Has that been the...
Oh yeah, he's taking some lumps right now. But did Celtics fans elevate Tatum beyond where he belonged by leading teams to conference
Depends
finals losses? Yeah.
Did they? I don't know.
2020, I think, despite it being a rough loss, was deserved because that was breakout year. 2022, losing the finals, like I see that as a disappointment.
I mean, he got killed in 22.
Yeah,
Yes.
2023, obviously too. I mean, he got hurt there, but whatever.
Tatum gets
I think if
killed,
Ant was the guy in this series, if Ant was carrying this team and then they came up short, he probably wouldn't be getting as much scrutiny. But it's because that's not really how it went down. Like, he had role players have big performances. Like, he didn't really have many big moments in the series compared to what people would have expected. So that's probably what's driving some of this. But again, I haven't really been following his discourse too much.
I'll ask you this because everyone does this. Last year, the Celtics built a super team, right? And again, I'm going on the assumption that the Pacers and the Thunder play in the finals. If it's the Knicks, it's a different conversation, but that's where it's trending.
Yeah, I like how we're writing off the Knicks.
No, but it's fine. Like I said, I think, you know, they've got a huge edge right now. They're up 3-2. They got 2 games to close it out, and they're home. But again, nobody knows.
I'll tell you what can be learned, John.
But last year, the Celtics, everyone wanted to do that. Oh my God, look at this team. You know, they've got, you know, the 2 athletic wings, shooters everywhere. Everybody can switch. They can play defense 1 through 8, interchangeable parts, and then the cheat code in Porzingis. They've created an infallible super team. Nobody can ever be anything like the Celtics. And then 1 year later, they were kind of slow and they got beat up by athletic teams and the pace didn't really work and they shot too many threes. Same exact roster all of a sudden was flawed. Is there anything about the Pacers and the Thunder roster construction? Again, the Thunder, unique situation here with so many younger players playing at such a high level here because of, I think it was called tanking. But you know, they're where they are right now. So yeah, obviously, like, yeah, if you could build a team like Thunder, you want to. But in terms of how they play the game and how they play basketball, is there anything people are going to look at and say, oh, we got to be more of that? And the first thing that stands out for me is depth. And again, I go back to that idea of trying to build a team around your star players who are on rookie deals or rookie extensions so you can have more depth. But you're starting to see like how important that is, you know, for these teams to throw a lot of bodies at here and to play in a pace and space era, to be athletic, to be able to run up and down and to do all this stuff. Is there anything you guys can glean from these 2 teams if they do end up indeed being in the finals?
A lot of things. The first one's that it's good to have Paul George and trade him for a haul. Yeah, that's a starting point for both of these teams and got them in a good position with the stars. But beyond that, I mean, the drafting's crucial. Both of them made awesome, savvy draft
Interesting
picks.
point, Bobby, with Paul George, though. Interesting.
Right. You get a bonus back in Indy, and then you trade him for Halliburton, and then Oklahoma gets Shea for him.
Yeah, weird.
Great trade.
Weird how that happens.
It's just weird how that happens.
Huh.
So,
some food for thought.
Yeah.
That's something, right? You know, you can look at that. You can look at the depth pieces John did there. But then the play style, Indiana in particular, and again, I'll throw it to you, Noah, because you're such a big fan of them. I think that's something Joe can learn from, right? Like, there is a rigidness to his style right now that I think he's going to have to move past. And again, I'm not predicting whether he's going to move past it or not. I have no idea because he's had the team that's been built to shoot threes and do the things he does. So I think that's why he leaned into that. Carlisle in Indiana, I think, has tailor-made the system to the skill set of these guys, and everybody's empowered. And some of my frustration with the Celtics sometimes is that not everybody's empowered to play make, to handle the ball, to, you know, do different things, have layers of sets. A lot of it was just fixated on attacking mismatches, and that's not what the Pacers do. Like, they'll get into the actions quickly. If it's not there, they'll reverse course. There'll be another action. There's so many guys that can create and initiate there. And listen, the Celtics have built a roster with multiple ball handlers. They have built a team that defensively, I think, you know, Indiana looks at what Boston does defensively and still, even with how successful they've gotten, probably envies what Boston does defensively, because I'm still not super impressed with the Pacers defense, even though it's better this year. But the speed, the flexibility for them offensively, how fast they get in the actions, and just how many different actions they can run in one set, that's what stands out to me now. And I think a lot of teams can learn.
What do you think, Noah?
I mean, the biggest thing for me, obviously, what you guys both touched on, is the depth. Like, it seems like depth is kind of back in the NBA, and I think Jokic said that you saw 3 out of the 4 conference finals teams like really have significant depth, and the Celtics didn't really this year. If you think about who they actually trusted. But honestly, I love when the Celtics play fast. I think a lot of people do. Certain guys on this team have stressed it all year. Pritchard, Jaylen being the two guys that are the most vocal about it.
And they went to last in pace.
Yeah, I do wonder if next year, maybe if they keep those two guys, like I think the pace is going to be a part of this team's identity in a way that it wasn't in previous years. So
this is why, and again, a different conversation than what we're having now with the Celtics because of they're facing a harsh economic reality. But Bobby, my reasoning behind always wanting to trade Brown before was that single alpha, more players with diverse skill sets who can do lots of different things for you to create that type of depth. I always thought was a better way to run this roster than to have the two superstar players playing roughly the same position and a redundancy. I'll go to my grave thinking that they won. I don't think they won because of it.
And they built a lot of depth.
I don't think they won because of it. And they built depth, but it was short-lived because you made the deal with the devil and got these expensive players to load up for this one run because you weren't able to do it with those two guys. It was actually being proven out that it wasn't working. And so they decided, Wick went in there and said, something's got to change, and what all of that
after the
stuff.
Heat game.
Yeah, whatever it is. No, I told Brad we're
Didn't
not.
he say grow some balls or something like that?
And, he said that in the game. So I'll bring to this, and that's kind of what I'd always thought there. I'll bring it back to this final question, and then we're going to wrap. If the Celtics core of Tatum and Brown now, with the assumption next year's not going to be a title year, and that's going to be year 10 of Jaylen, year 9 of Jayson, right? Without having played. That if that's all they got, and this is the last time they play together, or the core gets blown apart, is the Tatum and Brown era a success with one championship or a disappointment?
I'll start. So I think if you just say it like that, I think if you win anytime you win a title as a player, like I think your entire career is validated and like good for you. This is so difficult to win, especially in today's day and age. It's so difficult to win and to repeat and to win multiple championships. That being said, they were close in so many other seasons where to me, there would be a part of me that feels like it would be a disappointment because whether it was the losses to the Heat, whether it was the loss to the Warriors, whether it was this season where the injuries kind of cut them short and they bowed out in the second round. Like, I do think that there's a big part of me that would feel like, damn. And I felt this way back in 2007, that
the Golden
stretch
State
run there where they only won one.
The 2008
like,
team was a disappointment.
Great
they
that they won
multiple. Yeah. Go ahead,
right.
Jimmy.
And so, I mean, I think if you feel that way about the 2008 team, I feel like you have to kind of feel that way about this team because
I feel like it's very
extremely
similar.
Talented teams.
Yeah, and the age limited that team's sustainability. Like,
but they had
at
least one more if KG doesn't get hurt.
For sure.
That was bad circumstances.
And
that team was going to destroy people in 2009.
When I look back on it, John, like I'm not thinking about all the years that we lost. I'm obviously reminiscing about the 2008.
But you had these two guys. You built what that everyone said the dream. Oh, Danny'd been trying forever. The two athletic wings, the positionless basketball. Right. These players to build the team around them. The envy of everyone. They've got these two dynamic all-star wings and this and that, and that's your core. And those guys having only won the one championship, it's really more around the Tatum and Brown conversation, not everything else that happened. Those guys might only yield one title for all of their time together.
But they have the chance for a second act, which is the positive here. Like there could be a second half to their careers where they regain contention. But this era is gone. Yeah. Unfortunately here. And there was a period not too long ago, maybe like 5 weeks ago, where we are sitting here saying, how's anyone going to stop this team? And this thing might extend even beyond this year. Yeah. Like those were legitimate conversations that were going on not that long ago, less than a month ago. So the fact that we're sitting here now and saying, yeah, this era is probably over is absolutely disappointing. And
it's crazy.
It's comparable to 2008 in that you had a second finals where you're on the doorstep, you have a real chance to win and you couldn't get it done. So that's obviously disappointing. And I do look at 2022 that way. I think they should have won that finals. And then you have an injury involved here that deteriorates your chance of competing significantly. And I guess the difference is, as I've said, you pretty much already lost that series when Tatum goes down, and that itself is a disappointment. But the fact that that injury now impacts you beyond this year is just a killer. And that's part of the story certainly here, but there's a lot of other years even prior to this one that you're kicking yourself even more for now because of the fact that this happened this year.
No, what do you think?
I think you guys know what I think. But
you
I
say
don't.
winning a title is good. Go ahead, you say it.
No, I mean, it's just there are a lot of great teams that never win a title, and that very well could have happened year two if things go differently.
No, you're more grateful for
like
that
one
title.
of my favorite teams growing up. Like I loved that Thunder team with Durant, Westbrook, and Harden, and like the fact that that core should have won a title and they never did. Like that's a disappointment to me. The fact that they kept these guys together and that they won a title, like you can't take that away. And the other thing is that, and I put out a Twitter poll about this a couple weeks ago, and it was really interesting to see people's responses. But like to have a decade of competitive basketball, which is what Celtics fans have had, and to always know you're in the mix and to be watching basketball through May every year is something that I think people take for granted. Like I think people only look at the end result, and I understand like at the end of the day, it's just about banners, and that's the culture in Boston, and that's all that ends up mattering. And the Celtics players will say that too. Like it's a failure if they don't win. And I think most of these past years they would consider a failure. My mindset is if you can be in the mix to contend every single year and you do get it done once, like that's success, because otherwise who hasn't failed in the last decade, you know?
Yeah,
like
but I think we're redefining it a little bit. I think you're right in the sense that like you're happy for having had a team that was in contention all the time
because of what happened this year, John. And everything blows up, and you're like, oh shit!
And you won the title.
Yeah.
There, I believe this team. I believe you should have had more through the course of this, their run here. And I'm not even looking at individual missed opportunities. It's if this really was as great as we said it was, and if Tatum and Brown were the best, if you've had the best duo of the NBA for 5 years and you surrounded them with talent, you should have probably won more than one title, I would say. So I think you came up short, but it doesn't mean that you didn't have a good ride. So the ride was good. I still think the one title's a bummer because really this team was built to go back to back. And I think you probably could have won in 22 there as well if they didn't run out of gas or kind of puke all over themselves there. So I feel like this could have been a 3 out of 4 sort of situation. It didn't happen. It's too bad.
Yeah. Some guys you love miss chances.
Franchise that would say it has not been a disappointment at all then would be the Warriors. Because any other team you could go back, you could say you had Jokic, the best player in the world for most of the decade, and you only won one title. Like you should have won more. You have the greatest.
I think they're pretty bummed they didn't get back to the. I think they're absolutely.
I'm just
they're going to
that,
look at last year and be like, we could have won that thing.
Line, most of these teams probably feel like they should have won more than once, and a lot of teams only make the final. No, that's a weird one. Toronto's the weirdest championship ever.
Toronto lost Kawhi right after that.
That one was weird because it's a one and done with Kawhi there. He was just a gun for hire, best player in the NBA, switches teams for a year, wins a title, and then leaves. So that one was odd. I mean, but you do have, you've got multiples here. You've got the Heat with their core winning multiples. You got the Spurs with their core winning multiples. You know,
recently,
you've got Golden State.
Lakers,
again, it's not the Warriors is 2017, 2018, 2015, and that's that stretch there. The Heat,
that's the last team, though.
Well, that's the last. That's one I just mentioned. But like,
right, I know
the
Lakers go back to back there.
The only fan base that should be happier than the Celtics is the Warriors over the last 10 years.
10 years, sure, absolutely. But that's the whole point is the really
10
great
years
teams,
is the Tatum Brown era, you know.
And you're talking starting in 2000, you have the Lakers winning multiple, San Antonio winning multiple, the Lakers coming back and winning multiple, the Spurs jumping back in, and Golden State. That's several teams have won multiples, and then a bunch of one-offs.
Well, it's so different now.
A few of those one-offs, a few of those one-offs were single teams there. I think when you have all of your pieces in place, the expectation is, especially if you're running it back with the same team over and over again, even Denver lost key pieces year over year. So they built to that point to get to where they were, and half of Denver wanted to blow that team apart. So I don't know that you would call that a disappointment either. They crescendoed at the title and then had to take a step back 1 year later. So I don't know. I think the Celtics team, had more bullets in the chamber here.
Milwaukee, Denver, and Boston in particular had hope to make it bigger than one.
Milwaukee
title.
had hope. They got to be disappointed that they didn't do more for sure.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you're in that category now. I know. Listen, no, you're 1,000% right. I think from a fan perspective, especially, I don't begrudge anyone who just sits here today with the disappointment of Tatum and is like, thank God we got one. Because that's a fair perspective, I think. To
One
losing.
always absolves you of everything. You got the one, you feel good about it. You're
Right.
always going to feel good there.
What you're disappointed in is that you had a real opportunity to say we're one of the greatest teams of all time. And for a variety of reasons, you couldn't capitalize on that. So if you care about that, you're disappointed. If you just want a title because you hadn't won one since 08, and some younger fans probably don't even remember 08, I don't begrudge you that. I think it all depends on how you feel and what your perspective is on that. I think just looking at it objectively, it's a slight disappointment, but that doesn't matter if you feel differently about it.
And I think part of the heartbreak that we saw after this playoff elimination, particularly from Al Horford, even at the podium the next day, is they really wanted to be this special back-to-back team. Like, I think Al said going into the postseason, he's more motivated than he's ever been, more than he was last year at this time. So I don't think they felt like, oh, because we won one, we checked the box and we're good to go now. Like, they really wanted this milestone. So I do recognize that. But I think as time passes, like, you're going to ultimately kind of contextualize into this era just how nobody really did that. The one team, the first team that wins 2 championships in this era is going to separate themselves from all the other great teams that did one. Like, it's going to be, someone's going to do it, right? But it just hasn't happened in so long that I think it's hard.
And unfortunately, it's not going to be you. They had a real chance to be that team, and again, just didn't happen.
They still could. A couple more super chats here. We're Rapid Soda Pop 1850. Don't worry about Tatum being late stages mellow. That's supposed to say you don't need an Achilles to pass the ball.
Did Melo tear his Achilles?
No, I was just saying he just became. When you get older, you just resort to just jump shots. That's what Neek became post Achilles, but that's not the comparison I was making. I was more saying the diversified part of Tatum's offense and the attacking and all of that stuff. I wonder if that goes away if he's lacking that explosiveness, which he didn't necessarily have in abundance to begin with. Ahmed here. The real question is, do people watch NBA Finals when their local team is playing? I don't think so, but if you think so, then revoke the SGA MVP. I might not understand that, but that's okay. Thank you for the contribution. There. So we'll see where it goes. We've been here for a bit, so we are going to wrap it. But we did want to come back because we hadn't talked in a bit. We will continue on. NBA Finals will begin sometime next week.
Thursday.
We'll pop in and we'll do some shows from time to time and see what's going on. If there's any news, any rumors, we'll jump on here and discuss it. Make sure you stay with Noa over at Celtics blog, doing all of her writings, also her her ongoing WNBA coverage. Bobby Manning, you can catch him at CLNS Media. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channels. There they are. There's Ahmed behind the scenes. Thank you to Ahmed.
John, show him the merch too.
Oh yeah, where's the merch?
Guys, we got merch flying off the shelves, but we need people to buy eye masks. Get your eye masks in. This is going to be an eye mask off season, I think. So eye masks are hot in the streets right now. Get a little extra shut eye. The sun's getting.
People are just walking around with them. Yeah.
Yeah, the sun's getting brighter and brighter, they're saying. So you want to have that eye mask ready for the morning. Get a little extra shut eye, especially like tonight. Tonight's a late show.
Did you guys change the code?
The code might still be live for all I know. I haven't actually looked.
Is it the 10 more promo? Because that's sad.
It might still be 10 more. Yeah, I think it's still.
You
10
had
more.
one job, Jimmy.
It's true.
It's still true. 10 more. They still needed to win 10 more.
They can't win any more games now.
That's so short of where they needed to go.
We're gonna wait for the playoffs to end before we change the promo code. Yeah, just in remembrance of the team that had 10 more. But again, 20% off t-shirts, sweatshirts. We got the new logo tee, hard hats for next year. Guys, we're gonna need hard hats like you read about next year. Every game, you're gonna have to just show up and not go to work. Go to war. So we might have to sell like armor next year too. But anyways, that's the merch store.
Okay, so check out the merch store. Jimmy Toscano is hard at work there. There's a funny Patriots related one t-shirt there. You want to check it out as well. But again, thank you guys.
Free Bill t-shirts. Free Bill.
Free Bill. There they are.
There it is. That one's I got that one priced as low as I possibly could go. $20. Get your Free Bill shirt. Bill needs it. We're gonna line a charity up. I don't know which one it is yet, but it's gonna basically be to like support old people, and like so they don't get taken advantage of. That's like the goal with the shirt. So,
How about that name drop tee?
buy a free Bill
They
shirt.
want that before
there's
name
no
drop
names on
tee is
drop,
going to
right?
be
A relic.
the existing name drop tee is going to be a relic is one word for it, but vintage. And by the way, that's a great T-shirt. People have bought it. It's a high quality T-shirt. I believe it. And all those guys, get a good look at those names because you might not see them on any future T-shirts. A few of those ones at the bottom there, at least.
Yeah, Gafford and Martin Smart
in Washington.
Next year's
TJ
T-shirt is going to be like
Washington.
J.D. Davison and
Shireman.
Shireman. Yeah, we're gonna have Pritchard. We'll have to put a Pritchard shirt together. I think next year. I think next year's a big year. Everyone's saying
Boston
Jaylen
Tea
Brown
Party?
gonna have a big year. Pritchard might have the biggest year of them all next year.
Yeah. So yeah, that's have one happy Garden Report host for that for sure. Again, guys, thanks for hanging out. It was a long one, but again, we felt we owed it to ourselves and to you to get together and just see where we're at here. Not much has changed with the Celtics offseason, but we know a lot is going to, and as Noah, put it, it literally could go in any direction. And we'll be here with every move, every rumor, every single thing that happens. We have you covered here on the Garden Report. We will jump in live the second news breaks. I guarantee you that. We'll have a few more scheduled shows, some themed shows, and we have to look back at our bold predictions from the season. We'll do that next week as well. See how close we came to any of them being true. I don't think really any of us hit anything except for the sixth man of the year ones with Peyton Pritchard for sure. So we will, there'll be some victory laps over that, but I don't think we got much else right. Anyway, thank you guys for hanging out with us. We will see you later.
No one's sneaking a vegan brownie by me. I'll tell you that.
Okay, you know what, John? We're going to do it.
You have to feel that way too, Bobby.
I have to feel that way. Let's
Yeah.
fight out over and make Luke your first center.
Bobby, we gave you Luke hour early. We are not going to end this on a damn conversation about Luke